So again, you can see there on the left side, from left to right, we have Larry Connor and MLA in one Tesla together. And on the right side of the screen, you can see Eitan Stibba and Mark Pathy. So they're getting buckled in. The doors came down and closed, and they are ready to get to the pad.
Right now, the team inside the Tesla is just doing final checks with the crew, make sure everybody is good to go, and depart for the tower.
And for their own comfort, Kate, they have umbilicals in the Tesla that connect to them, so it keeps them cool and keeps powered on.
Yeah, we actually have vessels inside the Teslas themselves that pump out nitrox or nitrogen, oxygen, air. It's the same stuff that scuba divers use in their tanks when they're underwater. And that is pumped through the umbilical.
Dzień dobry, witam wszystkich fanów nocnego nieba. Piątek, godzina 14:16 już dokładnie. Oglądamy dzisiaj start misji Ax-1. Jest to misja realizowana przez firmę Axiom Space wspólnie ze SpaceX. Oczywiście Axiom tutaj wysyła na ISS w ramach tej prywatnej misji 4 astronautów. Wszystko przy wykorzystaniu rakiety nośnej od SpaceX. Jest to na dobrą sprawę chyba pierwsza misja od SpaceX w kierunku ISS, która jest realizowana na potrzeby prywatne. Nie jest na zlecenie ani NASA, ani innych agencji rządowych, także idzie to całkowicie prywatnie. No i moi kochani, do startu trochę ponad 3 godziny. Sporo oglądania dzisiaj przed nami. Pewnie po starcie też jeszcze będziemy sporo oglądali. Czas trwania misji, z tego co pamiętam, chyba nawet 10 dni. Na ISS powinni być przez 8 dni. Także ciekawe kilka dni przed nami. Jeszcze raz wszystkich witam. Słuchajcie, ja już po pracy myślę, że taką weekendową kawę sobie zrobię. Nie będę wam tutaj nadawał przez całe 3 godziny, bo tak naprawdę temat bym pewnie w 15 minut wyczerpał. Umówmy się tak, że co kilka minut będę do was wracał. Póki co zostawiam was z uruchomionym streamem. Idę robić sobie kawkę, was również zachęcam, zróbcie sobie jakąś weekendową kawkę. Jak to się nam przedłuży do wieczora, to już możemy też przejść potem na inne trunki, ale myślę, że póki co kawka. Także jeszcze raz cześć wszystkim, Drawsko, Joanna, Oliwia, Paweł, witajcie.
As you're taking the next step in the evolution of the space industry. So I want you guys to be proud of that, embrace it, and Godspeed.
The Wright brothers once said that the desire to fly has been handed down from our ancestors, looking up enviously at the birds soaring through space. And I just want to say it's now your time to be the envy of the birds as you soar higher and further than most of us could ever dare.
Good luck and Godspeed, Ax-1.
So awesome.
Cześć Eli, no ja też mam nadzieję, że start będzie ok, że wszystko się uda i tu już nawet nie myślę tylko o kwestii pogodowej, ale wiecie, zawsze jak się ludzi wysyła w kosmos, w przestrzeń kosmiczną, to jednak te kciuki trzeba trochę mocniej trzymać, niżeli to tylko są jakieś tam satelity.
Resources engineer Arthur Berrialt indicating that the crew has arrived, which as you can see just there momentarily ago, exiting the Teslas. This is their first opportunity to get an up-close look at their ride to space today.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that we did perform a dry dress rehearsal on Wednesday. Was that? Yeah, I guess Wednesday. And so we, just like we're doing today, we walked through all the steps. They've seen the rocket up close before, but not on launch day.
And not quite like this. I think it's a completely different feeling. When you're walking out of that FSB for the first time on launch day, right? You do the rehearsal.
No Eli, ja myślę, że o tej godzinie to co najwyżej podwójna kawa. Jeszcze jasno przecież.
You can just feel.
No chyba, że jest co świętować, także pozdrawiam.
the camera lens.
Exactly. Well, and I
Cześć, Krzychu.
think it really highlights the fact that this really is a return to flight for Israel, and the amount of work that each of these crew members have done to prepare for this mission has been outstanding. We mentioned earlier the training and choreography that leads up to a launch, and this crew has really gone above and beyond in their training to prep for this mission. 700 to 1,000 hours of training. They've really set that bar high for what this mission means to them and how they want to give back to the mission. And so I think it's more than fitting here to have a little bit of time to look back and enjoy it and say, we are ready. We are ready to get up there, and we are ready to go to the ISS, and we're ready to participate.
So with that view there, you can actually see the elevator doors that they're about to hop into. They'll get in those elevators, which I should note, we are launching from pad 39A. This is the pad that humanity went to the moon from. Apollo 11 launched from here, and the space shuttle then flew out of this pad after the Saturn V program ended. And we just saw MLA and Mark. This is great.
Yeah.
And so when SpaceX took over the lease for this launch pad in 2014, we did make some safety improvements and general refurbishments to the tower. So we did remove the rotating service structure, but what we see here, this is still the fixed service structure that existed in the shuttle program. So these elevators that this crew is getting into, MLA got in these elevators when he flew shuttle.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. Now they're going to take these elevators up to the 255
O tak, kombinezony kosmiczne w przypadku SpaceX są zupełnie inne od tych, które znamy. Tak jakby spojrzeć historycznie na to wszystko i się cofnąć kilkadziesiąt lat wstecz. Jakby podobnie jak w garniturach, taki slim fit styl się, można by powiedzieć, pojawił. Już nie są takie przeogromne, człowiek nie wygląda jak taki nurek. No, faktycznie poza kaskiem to jest całkiem normalny strój jak u motocyklisty. Cześć, Chris.
And then right there we can see them ascending the final 10 feet up to the 265-foot level via a staircase. Now here they have an opportunity to use the telephone that is placed there. Same deal as with previous spaceflight missions of history. You get one last chance to call anyone. It's been noted that obviously we're broadcasting this live. We're saying there's a telephone, but back in the old days, astronauts used to love to not tell people that they could get a phone call before they got into their launch vehicle.
And then we see Eitan and Larry emerging from the elevator and making their way over to...
Tak, Chris, za niecałe 3 godziny będzie start.
I'm seeing that advanced...
Tam, gdzie masz T- i odliczanie, to jest odliczanie do startu. Ja myślę, że ten licznik będzie chyba cały czas na ekranie się wyświetlał, także tam możecie sobie zawsze spojrzeć. Dobra, ja na tą kawkę, którą sam sobie w sumie obiecałem, w końcu muszę się umówić i iść wstawić wodę w czajniku, także za 5 minutek wracam do was.
There's bugs. There's no way to avoid them, from an atmospheric standpoint. So we really want to make sure that we block off any opportunity for FOD, foreign object debris, which could be a bug, could be a hair, could be anything that's not meant to be in the vehicle. And so you can actually see it in the right-hand corner. There's a small window, a rectangle, and that's basically a protective flap that blocks the open environment air from the crew access arm and therefore into the white room and into the capsule. So really making sure that environment is clean. That's why these our closeout leads and our suit technicians are in those bunny suits that you see there with numbers on the back. It's hard to tell people apart, so you are assigned a number. So we try to do our best here to make sure that everything that we don't want to go into, ultimately to go up to the space station, it stays out.
Right. And again, that's just one small part of the controls that are in place to really make sure that launch day is successful. And another part of that is understanding the role that everybody plays. It's all part of the training that leads to this moment. As I'm sitting there watching it as well, I'm noticing the arrows marked on the ground, representing emergency egress paths and things like that. So. Saw a great moment there between Larry and Eitan. You can tell they're just excited about it.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, a lot of training has gone into what we're seeing today. That includes preparation for all scenarios. Those arrows on the floor basically indicate the quickest path to safety in the event that the teams need to exit the tower rapidly. So everything is, we try to think of everything, all scenarios.
Right.
Preparation is ultimately the key to success. So there you see a view of that 265-foot level connected by the crew access arm over to the capsule. Now, we do see folks milling about. One thing to note, we did have part of the SpaceX crew actually here at the pad prior to the arrival of the crew. They're called the advance team. That's a small group of people that are basically responsible for preparing the cabin prior to the crew's arrival. They show up, they open the side hatch, they make sure that the cabin lights are on, they make sure that the task lights above each seat are functional and working, making sure that the displays are configured for crew ingress, initial comm checks, and you mentioned before, we've practiced everything. Everything is it's a choreograph.
Yeah.
That advanced team, it's so well choreographed. That advanced team in their procedures even have written, make sure there's a Sharpie.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
we're going to see the crew have the opportunity to add their signature to the white room, and it's actually in our procedures. Make sure that there's a Sharpie for the crew to sign the wall.
I love that.
Looks like one of our crew members is making that call. We think it's hard to tell.
I saw earlier Aton leaning over the balcony, I think just taking everything in.
What a beautiful day. Looks like that might be Larry Connor on the phone.
And we see Mark and MLA there as well, talking to their crew team, or to their suit teams as well, and that advanced team that Kate was talking about. And
yeah, so you might notice the closeout lead there in the black bunny suit on the right-hand side has a tablet. That tablet is basically what we use to go by step those electronic procedures that we have written. And as you see people stop and pause, and you might see the crew members give a thumbs up, that's all part of the procedure.
right, and then we get our first look here now as crew is walking towards the white room, getting ready for ingress into their Dragon capsule. We see MLA and Mark right there walking towards their capsule right now. They'll be ingressing first, and soon we should be able to get a good shot here as crew waits ingress.
As Mark and MLA make their way.
Countdown. We're at T-minus 2 hours, 50 minutes. Crew have arrived at the white room to prepare for ingress.
Now that MLA and Mark have arrived, as we just heard, down at the white room, we can see Larry and Aton making their call, removing the gloves here to take that Sharpie and
For
add
that
their
Sharpie,
names.
Exactly.
So this is an opportunity for all astronauts that depart from pad 39A on a Falcon 9 vehicle to add their signature to this room. You can see there at the left the NASA meatball with all of the NASA astronauts that have made this journey prior.
Yeah, and signing that wall is such a huge step, for any crew, I think, that gets to participate, but particularly, this is the first set of signatures of many for Axiom crew, and we're really looking forward to seeing a lot more signatures on that wall.
Now, after the signatures, the closeout leads there, the suit technicians, are basically, right now, we can see them doing a pre-ingress. You can see the next two are making their way down the crew access arm. Yeah, that closeout lead there is doing the pre-ingress checks, making sure that all the zippers are closed, making sure that the boot covers have been removed from their boots, removing the protective cap that's on top of the umbilical port. If it were raining, obviously it's a beautiful day in Florida.
Yeah.
And if it were raining, this would also be the opportunity that we would wipe the boots down
Right.
before anybody enters. They're also just reminding the crew to be extremely careful when ingressing. There is we want to make sure that there's no contact between the side of the vehicle and their helmet, for example.
Right.
So just making sure that everyone, and again, we've practiced this many times, as you've mentioned. The crew has logged 700 to 1,000 hours. That involves practicing getting in and out of the capsule.
Yeah, but like you said, this is a really controlled environment, right? This is really, when you button that hatch up, that is ready to go to ISS. And that controlled environment you got to take care of and make sure that you're, it's a crowded room in there, as we can see right behind Larry and Aton as they're awaiting their ingress trans as well. But it's busy in there. And we got to make sure that you're watching out for things like hatch seals and making sure that all of their flight suits are well taken care of and well maintained as they get into the vehicle. But like you said, Kate, it's a well rehearsed, well choreographed situation.
So it looks like the closeout leads are performing that pre-ingress check.
Dobra, jestem. Kawka gotowa. Co tutaj się dzieje na czacie? Już sprawdzamy. ISS jest na wysokości 408 według Google'a. No i to jest całkiem możliwe. ISS jest na tak zwanej niskiej orbicie okołoziemskiej. Leo. Dokładnie wypada w tej chwili, zaraz wam powiem. Oczywiście można sprawdzić w każdej chwili. W tym momencie ISS jest na około 417 km wysokości.
Obviously got to buckle up. Looks like Mark Pathy is now in his seat. So that suit technician will help them. It's more than just a seatbelt like you and I are accustomed to in a car. It's actually a 5-point safety harness. So they'll do an initial buckling in, not to they don't tighten it completely. They want people to still be comfortable.
Right.
They're going to be sitting in the capsule for a little while.
Yeah.
We're just under 3 hours until liftoff. So they're going to get in.
Ile ma trwać lot? Wiecie co, dokowanie jutro w okolicach godzin popołudniowych, w okolicach południa, czyli mniej niż 24 godziny będą lecieli. Około 12 w południe ma być jutro dokowanie. Cześć Bartix, cześć Mateusz, hejka. Tak, oni startują dokładnie za 2:45. No akurat w przypadku misji załogowych, tym bardziej, że to jest taka misja jeszcze prywatna, no to cała ta celebra się musi odbyć, nie? To wszystko jest jakby pokazywane, transmitowane. Oni zostali już jak zwykle pewnie Teslami dowiezieni na miejsce startu. Teraz zajmują miejsca w kapsule Dragon. Wszystko jest transmitowane. No i pewnie po samym starcie jeszcze z dobrą godzinkę pewnie będą nam pokazywali, jak to wyszło. No a sama transmisja z dokowania będzie jutro w okolicach południa. 400 km, 24 godziny. No ale to tak wiesz. To nie jest tak w linii prostej. Nie? Oni muszą podejść do tej stacji, ustawić się odpowiednio, wytracić prędkość i tą prędkość też trzeba wytracić stopniowo. Chociaż Rosjanie jakoś lepiej te trajektorie dobierają. Oni potrafią dosłownie w kilka godzin dolecieć do ISS. Jakaś misja była ostatnio, to po kilku godzinach już byli na miejscu. No to jest oczywiście wszystko kwestia dobrania odpowiedniego momentu, odpowiedniej trajektorii. Nie wiem, czy tutaj działa zasada w stylu lepiej dłużej, ale bezpiecznej, tym bardziej, że tutaj nie mówimy o profesjonalnych astronautach, no może poza jednym, bo dowodzącym tą misją jest człowiek, który był astronautą w przeszłości, A tak poza tym reszta to są sobie prywatne.
It takes a huge team of dedicated, hardworking people to get a mission off the ground. And that's one of the things about these initial private astronaut missions is that's what we're trying to learn. That's what we're trying to.
Mateusz w Polsce jest. Witaj na ojczystej ziemi, w Gliwicach. Cześć.
In order to get these missions off the ground and be successful. So over the shoulder there we can see MLA. I find it interesting.
Czy będzie Dragon widziany na nocnym niebie? Nie będzie, ponieważ żeby zobaczyć Dragona, no to trzeba porównać trajektorię do ISS, no bo oni się będą gonić, tak? Dragon będzie gonił ISS, żeby do niej zadokować, więc przyjmie trajektorię identyczną jak Międzynarodowa Stacja Kosmiczna, a jak dobrze wiecie, od 4 kwietnia niestety trajektoria nie przebiega nad Polską, więc nie widać ISS z Polski. Można próbować, ale to już wszystko jest sprawa indywidualna. W ciągu dnia może zapolować na tranzyt na tle Słońca, albo zapolować wieczorami albo późną nocą na tranzyt na tle tarczy Księżyca. Ale to każdy by sam musiał zobaczyć. Jest taka strona Transit Finder. Tam można swoją lokalizację wpisać i aplikacja wylicza prawdopodobieństwo i miejsce, z którego najlepiej obserwować właśnie przelot stacji kosmicznej na tle któregoś z tych ciał niebieskich.
The future of spaceflight, being commercial, private, you have to have that type of reusability, right? And I think seeing those two patches on there really is a testament.
Chris zadał pytanie, czy w jakiś sposób można zobaczyć stację ISS z Ziemi. Oczywiście oglądaliśmy ją raz przez ostatnie długie tygodnie w okolicach przełomu marca i kwietnia. Cześć Adimus, witaj. Widzę, że się powoli schodzicie. Piątek 14:36, pewnie jeszcze niektórzy w pracy, w szkole. Ja już w domu, już po pracy. Mam labę.
Making sure that everybody is buckled in properly, making sure that ultimately the crew is good, doing final FOD, or not final, but doing FOD checks. Foreign object debris is what I mean when I say FOD. Just making sure that everything is comfortable prior to doing seat rotation and comm checks.
Right. And one of the other things about seeing those mission patches, like I really find mission patches interesting. I think they're a really important shout out to what is the heart of this mission, right? And so, going into that a little bit, that insignia plays an important role, right, in capturing the soul of a mission. So let's go and take a closer look at the Ax-1 mission patch itself. So, representing the heart of this mission is the ISS itself, with the solar array wings prominently displayed as each crew member's national flag, and signifying the key message of this particular mission: international cooperation and collaboration. Behind the ISS, you can see a cascading plane of blue, representing Earth's atmosphere and highlighting the journey humanity has taken to get to this new chapter. Above the ISS, 4 bright stars, anchored by an atom in the center, create a constellation marking the mission's scientific and aspirational objectives. And then finally, the golden border around the patch represents the significance of this mission to the people of Israel, inspired by the logo of the Rakia banner.
So there we can see Commander MLA accessing his crew tablet, where he is able to monitor mission status and follow along with our procedures. Amazing view of pad 39A with 39B in the background there. Gosh, what a gorgeous day in Florida.
Yeah, it's looking like a perfect launch day.
Looking at the launch vehicle there, you can see that the top half has a very bright white color. The bottom half has a little bit more of a grayish color. In addition to the fact that the Dragon has been reused, we've also reused this Falcon 9 first stage as well. It will be making its 5th flight today. It previously supported the Inspiration 4 mission just a few months ago.
Yeah, it's another testament to that reusability that we talked about. Without this, these private astronaut missions wouldn't be possible.
Yeah. So far, SpaceX has completed 32 Dragon missions, including 29 visits to the International Space Station. 13 of those 29 missions have been on reflown Dragons, which, saying it out loud, is still just wild to me.
That won't
It's
ever get old.
incredible. The Dragon capsule flying today, like we mentioned before, has flown before. Named Endeavour, it will be making its third trip to space. It previously supported the NASA Crew 2 mission, and before that, Demo 2. As for our launch vehicle, Falcon 9 has completed 145 total launches, over half of those on reflown rockets like the one that we are using today. And like I said, that booster will be making its fifth flight today.
Like you said, it has that well-deserved and well-earned patina on that first stage.
Yeah, each time a first stage returns to the launch site, we put it through a vehicle maintenance program. Because we have reusable hardware, we can do thorough post-flight assessments and
A nie witałem się z tobą, Adimus? Chyba mówiłem cześć, także powinieneś wyczuć, że live comment. Tak, gardło już nie boli, już chyba wyszedłem z tego zapalenia krtani, które miałem. Natomiast będę tak tutaj się pojawiał co 15 minut. Jednak do startu zostało nam 2 godziny 37.
Larry giving those fist bumps. We see MLA and then Aton over on the far right. What can we...
Myślę, że co 10 minut będę tutaj się pojawiał i będziemy sobie komentowali to, co dzieje się na streamie.
So if you look at the two center seats,
Cześć Maria. Hejka.
the left center seat, always the pilot, the right center seat is always the commander. And then, as I like to call them, the window seats, which would be where I would definitely want to fly, are for our mission specialists.
And those window seats are great for enjoying the view, but as we alluded to before, and as we can see through, all of the procedural checks being followed today, discussing crews training, we know that they have a breadth of mission objectives while they're up there. This is really more than just a trip to space. These guys have a...
Stawik jednak z tymi startami załogowymi to jest
that they're going to be achieving on their flight.
bardziej taki chyba dreszczyk nawet, nie? Trzymanie kciuków naprawdę, żeby się nic nie stało. Także też nie mogę się doczekać, aby tam wszystko się powiodło, tak jak zakładają.
It doesn't stop once you get on orbit. They're going to keep going.
For sure. Yeah, just like on orbit, everything is scheduled, choreographed.
Eli na zakupach, a w Poznaniu też wieje. Pogoda niestety nie jest za fajna i dzisiaj tak na przemian. Słońce, deszcz i powiem wam, że powoli już nawet takie chmury burzowe się pojawiały. Także zaczyna się chyba sezon burzowy. Wchodzimy już w ten okres, gdzie częściej będziemy mieli do czynienia z błyskami. Oczywiście dla niektórych to jest fajna okazja, zwłaszcza dla nas, bo jak wiecie, nocne niebo to przede wszystkim obserwacje nieba, nocnego nieba, gwiazd, ale też tego, co dzieje się w ramach warunków atmosferycznych. Mamy całą grupę entuzjastów fotografii, także tych, co będą polowali na pioruny. Też jest u nas sporo na naszej społeczności discordowej. No i przy tej okazji oczywiście zapraszam, kto jest nowy na kanale, zachęcam do subskrypcji i do dołączenia na Discorda. Link chyba powinien być w opisie, zaraz się upewnię.
It's like that moment when you get on a roller coaster, you get buckled in, and you're just sitting there, and you're just waiting for it to start chugging along.
Exactly.
Although in the case of Falcon 9, it's not really a chug along; it takes off.
Yeah. Well, based on some of the reactions from crew we've been seeing earlier, right? Seeing a lot of Larry's excitement early in the day. Even as they're buttoned in, comm checks would be complete at a certain point, and you're waiting. I don't think the excitement's going to be dying down.
So in that shot on the left, you can actually see the Falcon support building just behind the hangars. That kind of gives you perspective of how far the crew journeyed in their suits in those Teslas. In those Teslas.
Right, definitely a walk you can make, but if you're going to be in that suit all day long, it may not be one you want to...
Yeah. I've made that walk many times, and not in a spacesuit, but can confirm it's a little bit of a hike. The incline up to the pad, it catches up with you.
Yeah.
Just love this view of pad 39A. That part to the right of the structure, it looks like a pole that's connected. That is where the rotating service structure was attached to the fixed service structure back in the shuttle days. So, it's just so cool to see the next era of human spaceflight being ushered into reality from this, hollowed ground.
Yeah, exactly.
So right now the crew is checking in on their tablets and doing
Chris, dziękuję za miłe słowa. Oczywiście pozdrawiam Ciebie.
the SpaceX team members that you can see there.
No, a moi drodzy, ci co znają ten kanał, co znają mnie, to taka informacja dla Was. Myślę, że jutro będzie dobry pomysł. 10 tysięcy subów świętować, także myślę, że wieczorem, późnym wieczorem zrobimy jakąś krótką transmisję, na której sobie podsumujemy to, co działo się przez ten cały okres, w którym zdobywaliśmy Was, widzów, i się zabawimy. Coś tam przygotuję dla Was ciekawego, już mam nawet na to plan, ale o tym więcej wraz z upływem kolejnych minut tej transmisji, jak nas będzie przybywało. Na razie malutko, 33. Wiem, że jeszcze w szkołach siedzicie, także spoko. Do startu zresztą 2,5 godziny.
Which is, same stuff that scuba divers use in their tanks to breathe underwater, but it just, that cool air flowing through the suit. Because I don't know about you, but if I were sitting in that chair, I would be sweating bullets of excitement, just ready to go.
Yeah, I know I certainly would be too, and I'm glad to hear that you have the features ready there to keep crew comfortable while they're waiting. But that also serves another purpose, right? You get to later when you do your comm checks and you keep your cooling, but it's also the umbilical for their uphill.
For sure. Great shot there of our Axiom 1 crew getting ready for comm checks and seat rotation. I just love seeing these 4 guys interact with each other.
Yeah.
As we said before, you can see that the bond between the SpaceX team and the Axiom team is really close, but the bond between them is also, and they just seem like...
Cześć Krystyna. A Chris zadał pytanie, jak długo mam kanał? Kurczę, aż muszę sprawdzić, bo tak z głowy nie pamiętam. Kanał Nocne Niebo powstał 15 czerwca 2020, czyli będziemy mieli za nieco ponad 2 miesiące, 2 lata. No to też będzie kolejna okazja do świętowania.
Yeah, so the top part of what we see there, that is the pressurized section of Dragon. That's where our crew is seated. The bottom portion that's half black, half white, that's the Dragon trunk. That is the unpressurized section. The black side is actually the solar panels that are utilized to deliver power to the capsule while on orbit and on station. That trunk will go up to the space station, but then in 10 days when the crew departs the space station, we will actually jettison the trunk prior to splashdown, and that allows for the heat shield.
SpaceX, Crew Dragon Endeavour here. We're ready for contracts.
All right, so that was the voice of Commander MLA.
Yeah, looks like we're ready for comm checks.
Copy Dragon, good morning. Stand by for umbilical comm checks.
On the right-hand side of your screen, that is SpaceX Crew Operations and Resources Engineer, or CORE, Arthur Berriault, seated here at Hawthorne Mission Control.
CDR, PLT, MS1, MS2, comm check.
CDR has you loud and clear.
PLT, loud and clear. MS1, loud and clear.
MS2, loud and clear.
And core, loud and clear. Umbilical comm check is now complete. Stand by for ground station comm check. Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
SpaceX Endeavour, loud and clear on the ground station.
Core, loud and clear. Ground station comm check is complete. Stand by for TDRS comm check. Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
SpaceX Endeavour, loud and clear on TDRS.
And Core, loud and clear. TDRS comm check is complete. Stand by for comm checks with MD and LD in the launch configuration.
Dragon, SpaceX, on countdown 1, comm check.
Good morning, Anna. I hear you loud and clear.
Good morning. I hear you loud and clear as well. Stand by for comm check over Dragon to ground. Dragon MD on Dragon to ground, comm check.
Loud and clear on Dragon to ground also. Good morning.
MD loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with LD.
Dragon LD on countdown 1, comm check.
Hey, Mark, good to be with you this morning. You're loud and clear.
And good morning to you too, Michael. I have you loud and clear. Stand by for comm check over Dragon to ground. Dragon LD on Dragon to ground, comm check.
LD Endeavour, you're still loud and clear.
And LD, loud and clear. Godspeed today, fellas. Let's go have some fun.
Indeed.
Endeavour, SpaceX, launch configuration comm checks are now complete. Please report when ready for seat rotation per section 2 of 4.100.
Roger, stand by. SpaceX Endeavour, we're ready for seat rotation.
No, Krystyna, myślę, że nie prędko będzie nam dane znaleźć się w przestrzeni kosmicznej. Ja myślę, że takie masowe podróże to pewnie, no ja nie wiem, w dziesięcioleciu to na pewno nie. Nie ma takiej opcji pewnie. nam by się mogło wydawać, to wszystko może takie jest szybkie, dynamiczne, ale to jest, myślę, że jednak nieprawda. To są jednak bardzo mocno wyselekcjonowane osoby. Byli pracownicy NASA, akurat tutaj, jeżeli chodzi o głównodowodzącego tą misją, muszą przechodzić wielomiesięczne szkolenia. Nie wspomnę o kosztach. Wyobraźcie sobie, że akurat w przypadku tej jednej misji, tej konkretnej, koszt wysłania jednej osoby, jednego astronauty, to jest $55 milionów za te całe 8 czy 10 dni, które spędzam na orbicie. 55 baniek. To razy 4 to się robi potężna suma. To nie są tanie loty. Ale jak już przy tym jesteśmy, to taka ciekawostka, no bo firma, która będzie ich wysyłała, która obsługuje to, czyli Axiom planuje stworzyć taki moduł najpierw dla Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej, a potem jakby ma powstać taki niezależny twór, nowa stacja Axiom Space. I tam są takie plany, żeby stworzyć, o tym mówiłem chyba w których z Astro Newsów, które się w styczniu pojawiły, stworzyć taki moduł umożliwiający kręcenie filmów w stanie mikrograwitacji, gdzie tam mieliby być wysyłani na przykład aktorzy albo nie wiem, sportowcy i tam jakieś mają być nawet rozgrywane w tym stanie mikrograwitacji zawody, coś w rodzaju takiej areny sportowej. Generalnie ma być to taki entertainment, tak, wykorzystywane do rozrywki w kosmosie. Takie plany ma ta firma Axiom. Axiom Space się nazywa, ta stacja ma się nazywać Axiom Station. No to i oni głównie teraz odpowiadają za wysyłanie prywatnych osób, tak zwanych turystów kosmicznych. Dolecą za coś około 20 godzin. Jutro około 12, po 12 będzie dokowanie. Czyli tak na szybko licząc, jeżeli 17:17 start, dokowanie jutro o 12:45, coś między 19 a 20 godzin mi wychodzi. Jeżeli komuś chce się liczyć, niech policzy i wrzuci w komentarzach. Ale tak mniej więcej 19-20 godzin lotu.
As well as the NASA tracking and data relay satellite that's up in geosynchronous orbit. So all the comm checks were good. Meanwhile, back in Mission Control, we heard the Dragon team also doing the comm checks. Mission Control Center is located here in SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. Meanwhile, out at Kennedy Space Center,
complete, ready for rechecks.
sounds like we've got good suit leak checks. As I said, at Kennedy Space Center, we've got the Falcon and Dragon launch teams. They're in firing room 4. Got a great view of the pad on a good weather day.
Copy, Dragon. With that, give you a go for section 4 suit leak checks.
Ah, sorry.
Skin work.
There we go. Call out to actually begin the timer. Speaking of the weather, you can see on the left screen the Dragon spacecraft with the crew access arm, blue skies, some light clouds overhead. Weather's very good today. Probability of violation continues at 10%. Mostly that's just winds, but nothing really to be concerned about. And the trajectory out over the eastern seaboard of the U.S. headed northeast.
Piękna pogoda na Florydzie. Mamy 90% szans na start, więc można w ciemno obstawiać, że jeżeli jakieś kłopoty techniczne się nie pojawią, no to wystartują o czasie, czyli o
17:17. Dragon team also monitoring the spacecraft. They've done a lot of their significant work earlier, including pressurizing the Draco thruster system, doing an inertial measurement unit alignment. And right now they're working mostly the mechanical activities, getting the crew in, and as we'll see coming up, the hatch closeout, leak checks, and then eventually at T-1 hour, the advanced team will be leaving the pad. So right now, T-minus 2 hours, 18 minutes, 10 seconds. All systems continue to be go for an on-time launch this morning of the Axiom 1 mission.
Everything continuing to progress nominally in preparation for our launch of the Axiom 1 crew in 2 hours and 17 minutes. Everyone is, as you can see, buckled in their seat. The crew has performed their comm checks. The seats have been rotated back to access those touchscreen panels above them. And they're currently in progress with their suit leak checks. So basically pressurizing the suits for a certain period of time to make sure that basically all those buttons are zippered up appropriately and the visors are locking in place. So we can see them going through those leak checks now. Now, those spacesuits that you see were designed in-house here at SpaceX, and while they look super cool, that's not their primary function. The spacesuit is actually a really important extension of the spacecraft itself, and a lot more complex than you would think at just a glance. Here are two members of our spacesuit team, Chris Trigg and Maria Sundin, telling us how this suit came to be.
I think one of the things that was important in the development of the suit was to make it easy to use, something that the crew just has to literally plug in when they sit down, and then the suit kind of takes care of itself from there. So the suit is really kind of one part of the bigger Dragon system. It's really part of the vehicle. So we think of it as kind of a suit seat system. So the seat that the crew is in and the suit are in a lot of ways working together. And so it made sense that we were designing Dragon in-house to also design the suit.
Our spacesuit is completely designed in-house. It's built here in Hawthorne, California, in the same building as the rocket and the capsule. The spacesuit is custom-made for each crew member, and that is to optimize the fit for the crew member.
We definitely wanted to innovate, and we wanted it to look inspiring, but first and foremost, we wanted it to be safe and reliable. The spacesuit's primary purpose is to protect the crew in the unlikely event that the cabin were to depressurize. But the suit does a number of additional things. It provides cooling and communication to the crew inside of the suit, provides them hearing protection, and the outer layer of the suit is flame resistant, so it provides flame protection as well. When the crew gets in the capsule, they get in their seats and they plug the suit into the umbilical that's attached to the seat. And the umbilical is providing everything that the suit needs. So it provides the avionics or electronics for communications, is providing the air to cool the suit, and then it also provides gas when needed to pressurize the suit. So it's really a single point that lets the suit do all the things that it needs to do. We designed the helmet in-house. The helmet serves a number of different functions. Obviously, it's protecting the crew's head and it's retaining gas like the rest of the suit, but it also houses the microphones as well as the valves that are regulating pressure in the suit. We had to design the gloves so that they would work with the touchscreen so that the crew could use the touchscreen while they were in their suit. But the gloves also still had to do a number of other things like the rest of the suit. And then, of course, they have to be able to work under pressure. I think one of the things that's cool about the suit is it's not just a piece of hardware, it's not just a suit. It's a very personal thing to work on for everyone on the team who's been building these, and so it's a really amazing thing.
So about a minute and a half ago, we heard on the nets that we had 4 good suit leak checks. So that was the next milestone that we were working through. So good news there. The crew is continuing to check off things on their to-do list, essentially for today. Now, as you might imagine, our crew for today's mission, Michael Lopez Alegria, Larry Connor, Eitan Stibba, and Mark Pathy have gone through extensive training. As we've mentioned before, they've logged between 700 and 1,000 hours since mid-2021 of time dedicated to learning the SpaceX protocols, International Space Station systems, and ultimately to prepare for their respective research portfolios. To prepare the Ax-1 crew for their mission, our teams here at SpaceX have spent the last several months teaching the crew about orbital mechanics, how to live in microgravity, and even running simulations of what the full mission will look like while seated in Dragon, as you can see there. This team has studied nearly 100 different training lessons covering all aspects of the mission. As the commander, Michael, or MLA, focused on guiding his crew through all of their SpaceX, NASA, and space station training. Our trainers have told us that he has demonstrated exemplary leadership in building a cohesive crew that can tackle any problem that they're given and work together to solve it through effective communication. As the pilot, Larry spent time developing his technical and operational skills as a first-time flyer in order to build a foundation for piloting Crew Dragon. Larry also served as the translator for his mission specialists, breaking down the technical data for his crewmates. And as mission specialists, Eitan and Mark have spent a majority of their training becoming proficient in operating equipment, interfaces, and a suite of other tools at their disposal to support the crew members throughout the ascent, rendezvous, and return portions of this mission.
Right, but their training doesn't stop there, right? They had a lot that they had to cover. So the Ax-1 crew has also completed things like zero-G flights to become familiar with the microgravity environment, as well as centrifuge training to experience the exact launch and entry profiles that they'll feel during their mission. Additionally, they went through wilderness survival training to simulate and practice high-stress scenarios, as well as medic training to prepare for potential illnesses that they might experience while in orbit. And as the first all-private crew to live and work aboard the International Space Station, they have been training at NASA facilities, specifically NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, since August 2021. Each crew member has completed training in health, safety, space station systems, and emergency protocols to ensure that they can each work autonomously without interrupting the workflow of other astronauts while on board the ISS. And naturally, each crew member has their own portfolio of research they will conduct or participate in. Many of these studies have required the crew to train on the techniques and best practices of their respective principal investigators. So, bottom line, to wrap that up, this crew really is setting the standard in how they approach training, right? They've really exceeded the requirements of the mission, and they've certainly surpassed all of our expectations. And it really highlights that this mission represents more than just the first fully private flight to ISS. As mentioned earlier, it's establishing many new protocols and means of collaboration between government and private institutions. This crew really wanted to give back to the ISS, and they really wanted to give back to the mission and truly be a part of the team. And to do that, you have to be all in 100%. And so by immersing themselves in their training, they really set that bar high for private space flights and partnership efforts to come.
Yeah, for sure. So we can see there our crew members checking in on their temperature.
Maria, nie, to nie jest wymiana, to jest całkowicie prywatna misja, niezwiązana z tą działalnością operacyjną Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. Firma Axiom Space obsługuje akurat ten lot, ona jest jakby inicjatorem. SpaceX w tym momencie udostępnia swoją rakietę nośną i kapsułę, żeby dostarczyć ich w przestrzeń i dalej na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną. Natomiast jest to misja całkowicie prywatna. Panowie, bo to czterech facetów w sumie spędzi około 8 dni na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. No i tam długo się zastanowiono, co oni mają tam robić. No bo to są kosmiczni turyści. Oni prawdopodobnie zapłacili za tą podróż. Z tego, co doczytałem, to mają w czymś pomagać na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej, w jakichś tam eksperymentach, z czegoś ich przeszkolono, ale generalnie jest to całkowicie prywatna misja. Po 8 dniach wrócą na Ziemię. No i tak licząc czas potrzebny na przybycie do ISS, 8 dni na stacji, powrót, czyli mamy 10 dni w kosmosie. Czyli to będzie 10-dniowa misja Ax-1.
They can monitor the active operations of the capsule itself. Nothing happening at this moment, but in flight that will be an important piece.
Dla przypomnienia, każdy z nich chyba musiał z 50 milionów zapłacić. Chociaż nie wiem, czy oni osobiście, czy to są takie koszty. Podsumowano, że koszt wysłania jednej z tych osób to jest ponad 50 milionów dolarów.
For piloting vehicles and for interacting with your vehicle, and so they baked that right into the design of the spacecraft.
Absolutely. Something that we are very proud of, that the fact that Dragon is mostly...
Tych naszych to ja bym nawet takimi fajnymi statkami nie wysyłał, to bym z procy po prostu chyba wyszczelił. Co najwyżej.
The crew is trained extensively on how to be a backup to that software, but for the most part, as you can see...
Dobra, kawka wypita. Co teraz pijemy?
Thankfully.
Na zmianę to trzeba herbatę. Bardzo lubię kawę, ale za dużo nie powinienem. Na szczęście piję w takich małych filiżankach, ale chyba czas na herbatę. Dobra, polecam oczywiście z cytrynką. Pogoda nadal nie jest za fajna. Właśnie tak patrzę, jak to w tym Poznaniu wygląda. Trochę niebieskiego nieba, ale gdzieś tam od południowego zachodu znowu wchodzą ciemne chmury. Średnia ta wiosna nam się rozpoczęła. Tak, wycieczka. Joanna, bardzo dobrze podsumowałaś. To wycieczka to jest. Wycieczka w hotelu 8 dni spędzą i z powrotem transfer. Chciałem powiedzieć na lotnisko i do domu, ale nie, od razu do statku kosmicznego i do domu. Jutro o 12:45 jest przewidziane dokuwanie do Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej i też odpowiadam na pytania. Nie będzie widać tego z Polski, bo Międzynarodowa Stacja Kosmiczna już z terytorium Polski nie jest widoczna. 4 kwietnia oglądaliśmy ostatni przelot, już bardzo niski i dopiero w połowie maja chyba będą fajne wieczorne przeloty. Trochę wcześniej, bo na przełomie kwietnia-maja pojawią się nocne, a oczywiście na te nocne Was zachęcam do oglądania, ale nie przymuszam, bo komu się tam chce o 3 w nocy wstawiać i oglądać przeloty ISS.
Going to be incredibly busy on orbit. They have very full timelines along the way here, and we're looking forward to seeing each mission day unfold.
Yeah, so are we on the ground. We know they've got a very busy week in front of them. And you mentioned.
Czy mnie strasz? No, straciłem wątek.
So let's talk a little bit about each crew member specifically.
Że dużo kawy to niezdrowo?
Well, Larry is really focused on some really key studies with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic that focus on aging and brain health and heart health. And in particular, he's doing a couple projects on the ground that are looking at him as a human subject. And then in flight, he is also going to be doing some experiments with stem cells and with cells, 2 different kinds of cells, cardiac cells and with cells that are looking at aging. And in fact, he's working with a PI named James Kirkland at Mayo Clinic, who focuses on cellular aging, otherwise known as senescence. And so we've got a clip from Dr. Kirkland to tell you a little bit more.
My name's Jim Kirkland. I'm the Neuaber Foundation Professor of Aging Research at Mayo Clinic. I'm also President of the American Federation for Aging Research, and I'm principal investigator on something called the Translational Geroscience Network. I'm a geriatrician, endocrinologist, and internist, but also a PhD molecular biologist, and I'm interested in developing interventions that delay, prevent, or alleviate multiple diseases by going after fundamental aging processes. One of the things that we're working on is the cellular senescence program, and the other, my colleague Andrew Terzik, is looking at cardiovascular issues, and so there are a series of experiments that
nasputerskie fotki, o proszę.
are doing with Larry and the other astronauts' help. The project that my lab
Na górkę przy ławicy.
is mainly related to a process called cellular senescence.
Nie wiem, czy jeszcze ten 747 stoi, bo wczoraj przyleciał. Udało mi się zdjęcie zrobić, jak przylatywał. Oczywiście trzaskałem od siebie z domu, już bo mi się nie chciało jechać. Ale całkiem nieźle wyszedł. Ja przyznam się, że nie sprawdzałem, kiedy odlatuje.
So the idea is to find out on a short space mission where there's the predominant effect will be zero gravity, some radiation, if senescence develops. Larry and his group are also taking up cells that we're providing with them that are what we call pre-senescent. These are human cells in culture. They're going to be tending the cells while they're up there and changing the medium on them. And we're asking whether those cells become senescent in space. So special culture containers had to be developed for this by Axiom, special incubators. And Larry, we've trained him and his colleagues in how to change the medium. They have to take up these needles. And when he comes back, we'll have parallel cells on the ground that we will compare to the cells that have been up in space. And the insights that we will get from the experiments he is planning to do, both allowing his own blood and other fluids to be analyzed, and also by looking after cells that are taken in space, could help a lot of people with a lot of conditions that go far beyond space travel, to everything from childhood cancer survivors through to Alzheimer's disease.
Well, excellent. So essentially, Dr. Kirkland and Terzik are really looking at how microgravity can reveal new mechanisms in cellular aging and cardiac health. And the hope is that what we learn from space is ultimately we can translate to solving age-related conditions on Earth.
Really cool to see that. I just want to note real quick about 2 minutes ago while that package was running, we did hear from on the nets that we did get the green light to proceed to hatch closure.
Awesome.
So really good news there.
Excellent.
Christian, back to you. What can you tell us about mission specialist Mark Pathy's research portfolio?
Well, Mark has got a mission focused around caring for people on the planet, and so he's working with 6 different universities and their researchers in the Canadian area, and then he also is working with 2 startup companies for some technology demonstrations, and he's also working with some institutions in Canada to do some Earth observation work. One of the studies that he's particularly focusing on is about pain sensation in space, and he's working with Pablo Angelmo, who is a PI at McGill University and works with the Montreal Children's Hospital. We've got Dr. Angelmo on video here to talk a little bit more about his research and why it's so important.
I'm Dr. Pablo Angelmo. I'm professor of anesthesia at McGill University and director of the EDOS Family Interdisciplinary Center for Complex Pain at the Montreal Children's Hospital. The knowledge we have about the relationship between microgravity and pain is minimal, almost non-existent. We know that half of the astronaut who goes into space will experience pain while they're in space or when they come back to Earth. To better understand why these people have pain, we assembled a research team of the Allen Edwards Center for Research on Pain of McGill University, from Concordia University, and also from the MD Anderson Hospital Cancer Center in Houston. This project also involved transfer of technology from the University of Pennsylvania. Our team includes experts in pain sensation, in the genetic mechanism of pain, in bone pain, in intervertebral degeneration, and in musculoskeletal spine imaging and rehabilitation. The novelty of our project is that we are trying to answer several questions from different perspectives and different angles in a single study, but in reality, we are conducting 6 studies in one. We are not looking just for the abnormalities in people who have pain, but we want to understand why some people get better after an acute insult, like microgravity. That happens every day in Earth. We plan to incorporate that information collected from astronauts into animal models, which may lead to application in humans, and eventually in different ways to treat them. Our hope is that information we collect will advance on research on help people here on Earth. I would say that
Marcin, dziękuję za suba.
and his colleagues are giving us their time before, during, and after the flight. This will create new models of analysis for helping people in pain here, every day. I'm very grateful for their commitment and generosity.
As Dr. Angelmo talks about, this is some really novel research.
Maria, powiem tak, oficjalna transmisja na pewno będzie. Czy ja ją zrobię jako retransmisję, nie wiem. To jest jednak sobota 12:45. Jeżeli mi domownicy nie wymyślą jakichś sobotnich obowiązków, to czemu nie? To zrobię, chętnie bym zrobił, ale to tak naprawdę będę wiedział jutro. Paweł zaprasza na górkę. No to ja dosłownie to samo podpinam, co powiedziałem Marii. Ze mną to tak różnie. Ja mam trójkę dzieciarów i nie wiadomo, co tam się jutro będzie działo u mnie w domu. Także jestem bardzo mocno jakby uzależniony, zwłaszcza jeszcze przy weekendzie, uzależniony od dzieciaków. Nie jest mi łatwo się wyrwać, ale pewnie, chętnie bym się wybrał. Trzymam kciuki, Paweł, za pogodę przede wszystkim. A napisz, czym robisz fotki? Jaki masz obiektyw?
My name is Inbal Kreis. As the head of Innovation, System, Missile and Space Division at Israel Aerospace Industries, I led the scientific and technological program of the Rakia mission. The Rakia mission will allow Israeli scientists, entrepreneurs, and students to test their experiment in the unique space environment. All the experiments in Rakia mission led by Eitan Stibe are innovative and were chosen by a scientific committee based on their impact potential. 35 experiments arise from diverse fields of studies such as astrophysics, optics, radiation, communication, energy, agriculture, neurology, plasma technology, disease research, new therapies development, and many more. For example, in optics, the fluid lenses experiment, a joint project of the Technion and NASA, aims to enable for the first time the creation of optical components in space. In neurology, we are testing how we can take advantage of the conditions of microgravity to improve drug delivery to the human brain. An experiment of device to protect space systems from cosmic radiation. This technology will enable the use of commercial electronics in space environment. Testing recycling in space, the effect of microgravity on the rate of decay of plastic by bacteria. In agriculture, growing specific seeds in space as superfood and also for water purification, making the impossible possible. This is what makes Israel a startup nation, Israel the innovation nation. Ax-1 and Rakia mission are positioning Israel as a leading technological player in the global space community. I look forward to exciting scientific and technological results. Good luck.
Well, the whole country of Israel is really excited about Eitan's mission, and I think for me what's most compelling about the Rakia mission is how it really is going to act as a catalyst for the innovation in country to really take advantage of new opportunities in space for both profit and discovery. And so we're really excited to move forward with this mission, and we're gonna really knock out a lot of science with Eitan.
Yeah, certainly. You know, it's incredible to think that so many of these new studies are being given time on station because of the efforts of this crew and Axiom Space. But beyond the specific studies we've just highlighted, you know, there are several others that Axiom has been managing and will manage. Can you share with us a little bit more about these?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. We at Axiom are also using this flight to really further research and technology development that we think either plays a role in developing new in-space manufacturing applications or research applications in the future, and also maybe technologies that will help build future spacecraft. So we have a project where we're looking at stem cells to understand more about precancer and cancerous changes in tumors. We have research that we're doing on the crew with partners in Houston to understand more about what it means to keep a more diverse population healthy in space. We're flying some really cool technology that is autonomous and self-assembly of different panels in space that will ultimately play a role in building new spacecraft autonomously in orbit. And we're even flying a new technology that uses light to remove odors from the cabin, and probably super important on a mission like this where you're going to have 11 people on board for 10 days together. So a lot of different things that we're breaking out, and more that I can't even talk about here, but a lot that we're adding to the cruise mission that we have on orbit.
Well, Christian, that's great to hear. Thank you for walking us through the scope of Ax-1's research objectives. We're obviously going to be staying very, very well aware of these over the next few days. So, you know, this crew's really setting the bar high and adding all the volume of science that's being conducted on board.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
So as you can see there on your screen, the side hatch has been closed. The crew is now in the capsule. The door has been shut, so the closeout team did those final checks with the crew to make sure that they're ready to go to space today.
Yep.
So they closed the side hatch. They performed a leak check where they basically inflate a seal around the side hatch and hold it at a certain pressure for a certain amount of time and make sure that the seal is good. So that side hatch has been closed. The closeout crew and the suit technicians are still on the exterior, as you can see there on the left-hand side of your screen. And they are preparing to finish things up, and then we'll be stepping into comm checks with the crew and our ground teams here on the ground.
Right, and like you mentioned, Kate, it's inch by inch to get us into space, right? We take steps all along the way to make sure, are we getting good comm checks? Good. Are we getting good leak checks? Good. All right, now let's close the hatch and let's check it out again, right?
Yep.
So it's all part of the process that this crew's a part of, and that all crews on the ground are a part of, to make sure that we have a successful mission today. And I think crew's now at that spot that you were talking about earlier. All right, we're ready. I see that hatch closed, and I know I got good comms. Let's get to space.
Yeah, watching that seat rotation is always an exciting moment for me because you can see expressions change.
Yeah.
You can see body language change because that seat rotation back into the launch position for the crew is the final physical movement that they have prior to liftoff.
Right.
So it's always fun to watch. Now the crew's there on the left-hand side of your screen again. That we're performing we're performing the leak check on the side hatch. And you can see the tablets there the crew is using to follow along with the data that's coming in from that leak check, as well as just monitoring where we are in the closeout process. As I've said a couple of times already, everything is extremely well choreographed. Every step of the procedure is documented down to details like, make sure there's a Sharpie in the white room prior to crew's arrival to make sure that they can add their name to the wall of signatures that you see there. So everything is very well documented, and that's what the crew is tracking there on those tablets, our e-procedures, electronic procedures. Right now, we're about 2 minutes into the 5-minute wait for that leak check. So like I said, we inflate the seal around the side hatch and hold it at a pressure for 5 minutes and monitor that data to make sure that it holds that pressure for the 5 minutes. After this leak check completes, we will step into comm checks with the crew, and that's basically a how do I want to phrase this? A roundabout with the crew and all the ground systems to make sure that communication lines are loud and clear for the crew.
Right, and followed by that, it's just marching down towards T0, right? We have, launch escape system checks being armed after that. Closeout team will depart, and the crew arm retracts, and we just keep working our way towards launch.
Yeah, yep. Which now just about 1 hour and 15 minutes away. So once the leak check for the side hatch completes and the closeout team departs the white room and ultimately the tower, it's a lot of waiting for the crew.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of excitement. Oh, the seats are rotating, it's happening, and then it's wait.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, and while we're waiting for those checks, let's take a little closer look at the crew again today. So serving as commander for this mission is Michael Lopez Alegria, or MLA, as you've heard some of us call him. He's a veteran of 3 space shuttle flights, 1 Soyuz flight, and numerous spacewalks.
for side hatch leak check. All right, MLA, they were seeing some leak rate trending in the wrong direction, so we're going to reopen the side hatch temporarily, try and clean off that seal, and then re-close the side hatch to re-perform the side hatch leak check. I'll copy.
Okay, Arthur, we copy that.
All right, so that was just a note from SpaceX core Arthur Burial to the crew to let them know that we're going to reopen the side hatch. It sounds like that, as I mentioned before, we inflate the seal around the side hatch and hold it at a pressure. Sounds like we saw just a little bit of pressure loss there in that leak check, so we're going to reopen it and wipe down everything along that seal to see if we can get that to close up properly.
Right, and as Kate mentioned, we heard that conversation between Core and MLA. So, taking a closer look at MLA here while we wait for those leak checks, this will be his third trip to the International Space Station. His last one was Expedition 14, where he also served as mission commander. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the commander of Ax-1, Michael Lopez Alegria.
Michael, I want to know what the first time the feeling was when you got outside of the space shuttle. What was that feeling like?
Most astronauts that have been to space will talk about the overview effect. Basically, it's a change in perspective. These experiences are really unique. So I'm trying not to set expectations for the crew because I really want them to have their own interpretation of what it's like.
American spaceflight record set by former NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria. 215 days in space, 213 of which were on the International Space Station.
In 2004, I was assigned to fly a long-duration mission to the ISS. My two crewmates on the Soyuz would be a cosmonaut and then a spaceflight participant. And I wasn't too keen with that idea. And the few weeks that I spent training with her and the 10 or so days I spent on orbit with her completely changed my view. It has been a complete 180-degree change of direction, and I went from refusing the Kool-Aid to pouring the Kool-Aid.
The thing about LA that's special is his patience and his skill, competence, his trustworthiness. He's well suited to be a commander of any space mission.
Ax-1 is the first private mission to the International Space Station. We are setting the standard for all future human spaceflight to the ISS, and we take that obligation very, very seriously. Our guys have been training for months, and they're trying to get a lot done, especially when it comes to scientific experiments and outreach. But I want them to really enjoy the experience, and I want them to come home with a big smile.
Cześć Franek, ja tylko przypomnę dla tych, co dopiero dołączyli do transmisji, oglądamy start misji Ax-1. Jest to misja realizowana przez Axiom Space we współpracy ze SpaceX. SpaceX akurat dostarcza rakietę nośną. Misja leci w kierunku Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. Jest to misja całkowicie prywatna. Tak jak ktoś w komentarzach dobrze podsumował, mówimy tutaj o kosmicznych turystach, czyli mamy wycieczkę na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną. 8 dni tam spędzą i po tych 8 dniach wracają z powrotem na Ziemię, czyli mamy 10-dniowy pobyt w kosmosie dla tej czwórki mężczyzn, bo mamy całkowicie męską załogę. Właśnie jest przedstawiana ich sylwetka, także już kończę gadać. Posłuchajmy, co tam mówią nam o tych astronautach.
Larry Connor
Cześć, Opresek.
is Axiom 1's pilot. Larry's experience in piloting over 16 types of aircraft and multiple deep ocean dives sets him well for this role aboard Ax-1. While on board, Larry will conduct numerous experiments in conjunction with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic. Here's a closer look at Larry Connor.
Well, Larry, I always start with the big, broad question, why?
Well, it's a big opportunity and a big challenge.
And you're no stranger to extreme activities, right?
Well, I don't classify them as extreme activities. I understand other people would.
Larry is an entrepreneur and nonprofit activist investor. Larry Connor will be the pilot for that mission.
Pilot is the person who is there to be equally technically proficient as the commander and back them up.
My pilot, Larry Connor, American businessman, he comes across as a no-nonsense guy. The words I would use to describe him are focused, organized, driven, and he's a real team player.
I was really clear to Axiom right from the beginning. I didn't want to be a space tourist. I didn't want to go up there and sit. This was an opportunity not only to do exploring, but hopefully make a difference.
Well, Larry and the other astronauts are doing a couple of sets of studies, the one with respect to heart function, the other with respect to these fundamental aging processes, and the insights that we will get could help a lot of people with a lot of conditions, from childhood cancer survivors through to Alzheimer's disease. One of the things that Larry has been doing is he's been incredibly generous with helping support clinical trials, determining once and for all whether some of these interventions work.
Our goal and our hope is to try to help revolutionize how we think about and how we serve and how we help people.
He wants to do a good job. He's putting in the efforts to support his crewmates and just, make an example of what private spaceflight could be.
I just wish the world were filled with people like him. He's generous and thoughtful, and I just can't think of enough positive things to say about him.
You have to recognize all of the people up and down the line. They've simply been exceptional. We've got a really talented, committed, resilient group of individuals. Amazing things really are possible. Hi, I'm Larry Connor, and I'm the pilot on Ax-1.
Now coming to Eitan Stiba, serving as mission specialist, Eitan has a significant mission ahead of him in terms of objectives, as we talked with Christian earlier about. Working with the Ramon Foundation and the Israel Space Agency at the Ministry of Science and Technology, Eitan will be focusing on everything from genetic diagnostics to arts and science outreach. Here's a closer look at Eitan's story.
Tell me, what was your first spark to want to fly?
That's an interesting question. As a kid, I would close my eyes and dream that I was flying like Superman that I saw on TV. Actually, I went to sleep every night in this position. F-16 is a beautiful aircraft. It gives the pilot a feeling of freedom in the 3-dimension. You just look at somewhere and pull the stick and the aircraft performs what you wish.
He has this inner drive. You see it shine or spark when he's exposed to new cultures. My dad has been, in the last decade, his heart has been into impact investments to create infrastructure and to help communities.
The Rakia mission was built in the same manner to draw on the curiosity associated with human space travel, to conduct a wide range of experiments, educational studies, and even artistic activities.
ראינו שחקר החלל מגרה את כל החושים, מעורר סקרנות, ואפילו מאתגר את הדמיון הפרוע ביותר.
Rakia patch. It has Rakia written on it in English, Hebrew, and Arabic, and one dot up above for the memory of Ilan Ramon.
Even though Israel is a technological country, space is something that ignites a curiosity. It's unreachable, it's far away. One of my objectives in the mission is to change the sentiment in Israel about human spaceflight, to inspire children to look up to the sky and imagine things that are not possible and try to reach them.
Engines full power. Lift off.
The thrust of Falcon 9 is like 2 squadrons of F-16s in full afterburner. That power is incredible. I sat inside the simulator of the Dragon, looked up and imagined how that would feel.
I think it's going to be the most beautiful thing in the world, seeing this literally take off and seeing all the ideas and all the effort that has been done come to life. It's going to be beautiful.
There is an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I'm happy that so many Israeli entities and people can join this effort. My name is Eitan Stiba. I'm a mission specialist on Ax-1.
Mark Pathy is one of Ax-1's mission specialists. A longtime philanthropist, Mark will be working with the Canadian Space Agency as well as Montreal Children's Hospital to conduct a number of experiments on vital organ monitoring, ocular health, and pain management. Let's hear a little more from Mark.
In your mind, as you're driving at the pad site, would you have a drive-up song?
To get to that moment where I'm sitting in the seat, buckled in, and that countdown's beginning.
3,
2, 1.
I imagine what it's going to feel like physically in terms of lifting off from the surface of the Earth. It's hard for it to always seem completely real. Then a whole other chapter opens and a whole other adventure begins.
I'm very excited to start my training. Been waiting for a long time. The anticipation's been killing me. Now here we are today. I'm ready.
As a proud Canadian, it was important to me to really highlight Canadian universities and Canadian research institutions and to give opportunities to those researchers and those organizations that they might not otherwise have.
Mark was entirely committed to developing this mission as a scientific mission, and the theme of the mission was caring for the planet, caring for its people. We're going to be testing new technologies that can help us explore space, staying longer and going farther, but more importantly, can help change our lives here on Earth.
There'll be a lot of physical and psychological studies that I'll be participating in up there. A lot of the research that I'm undertaking involves using me as a lab rat, because that's the best way I can contribute. A lot of what one experiences in space in terms of inflammation, in terms of pain, psychological feelings of isolation, those are things that affect sick kids. To me, I would like to think that I'll leave this world a better place than I found it.
The crew is setting a high standard for private astronauts in the future because they're dedicated to science, they're dedicated to the mission, they're able to learn all these objectives, they are building in educational outreach. It's really exciting watching this come together.
I'm very excited to work with you to complete your science experiments and your educational outreach when you get on board ISS.
We know you guys are prepared, and we'll be supporting you here from Mission Control in Houston.
There's a lot of people, some that I know and many that I don't, that deserve my appreciation and thanks and gratitude for getting me here. I'm Mark Pathy, and I'm a mission specialist on Ax-1.
We're currently T-minus 1 hour, 36 minutes, 27 seconds. As the Axiom 1 crew awaits its 11:17:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time liftoff from Launch Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. Now currently, as you see a little bit on the left there, the crew is inside the Dragon capsule. We closed the side hatch a little bit earlier. We began the 5-minute leak check. We stopped that. They saw a little bit of a leak, and they reopened the hatch starting about 12 minutes ago. You can see they're getting ready to close the hatch again. They cleaned the seal off. Nothing significant noted, but give it a good wipe. We're closing up, and then we'll try to repeat the leak check here very shortly. Once we get through that, we're also waiting to hear the crew perform communications checks with the Falcon ground team. That'll be a checkout with some of the responsible engineers who you'll also hear during the ascent calling out status, propulsion engineer, avionics engineer, guidance, nav, and control, as well as chief engineer. Earlier, we did have the communications checks with the Dragon team. We heard that going through a variety of routes. That would be the umbilical, the radio frequency transmitters, and of course the NASA TDRS satellite up in geosynchronous orbit. So currently the weather, when we get a view of the pad, the weather continues to be go for launch. As well as any contingencies. For example, if a launch escape was required during ascent, weather conditions in the Atlantic Ocean off of the eastern seaboard of the U.S. as we head northeast towards the space station, those conditions are go. The upper altitude winds for Falcon 9 as we steer through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, those also look good right now. And of course, contingency splashdown locations that we would use in case the crew had to come back down out of orbit, they're also looking good. Now coming up in about 35 minutes, that's when things start to get active on Falcon 9. We'll begin the fuel bleed in on the Merlin engines, let a little bit of propellant onto the vehicle, bleed it through the engines, that's getting them ready for the ignition sequence inside of T-minus 2 seconds. And of course, as we said, the Dragon team, the advanced team that's on the pad, they have to repeat the side hatch leak check. Good news is we've still got time in the schedule, and we have seen this before if you've been with us on one of the crew missions. We also had a leak where we had to reopen the hatch, clean the seal, close it up, and then it passed. But that advanced team, once we get through that and we finish putting on the last covers for flight, deflate some of the seals, and get ready to get out of the pad, they'll leave the pad area and the crew access arm at T-1 hours. Also, a little bit earlier, we did a launch escape system checkout on Dragon. That came at about T-1 hour and 52 minutes. That's mostly just checking all the telemetry of the systems that are required in the launch escape safety system. Everything checked out well, and that's a standard part of the launch countdown. It's critical to make sure that everything is in working order.
We are closing the side hatch again, and we'll step into the next round of side hatch leak checks.
And we've heard the call out. You can see the advanced team. They're closing the hatch. Looks like they're torquing up to the required load. We then begin a pressurization sequence for a few minutes, and then we hold it for 5 minutes. And then, fingers crossed, we'll get a successful leak check. We'll get into the communications checkouts and proceed on to the T-1 hour and countdown to an on-time launch. But right now, Kate, John, everything continues to look good out of pad 39A.
We have to recommence the health checks for the launch escape system with the second hatch closure. Expect a momentary flight computer state change.
And one other update, you just heard the launch escape health checks. Those are the ones I said that we did about 20 minutes ago. You do them as you close the hatch. Now that we open it up, we close it again. They'll repeat that checkout. That just takes a minute to verify all the telemetry on the launch escape systems are still within specification. So everything continuing to go well at 39A, other than working through a second hatch leak check. Fingers crossed that we'll see an on-time launch at 11:17:12 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time.
So as John and I said, we have we're now in the process of redoing the side hatch closure and leak check. So the team saw a little bit of loss of pressurization whenever we were conducting that leak check. Not a huge deal, just reopen it. They wiped down the seal itself, didn't really know anything significant. So now they have reclosed it, and we're now reperforming that leak check. The crew remains seated and comfortable there on the right-hand side of your screen inside Dragon Endeavour.
Yeah.
Cześć Roman, mam pytanie do innych, czy inni też potwierdzają, że jest jakiś pogłos? Ja niestety nie jestem w stanie zweryfikować, dajcie znać.
But more importantly, finding ways to connect us together. And some of the best ways to do that are through art and shared experiences with art. So for this mission, we asked artist Michael Kagan, known for his space-themed artwork, to create an exclusive new piece that commemorates the Ax-1 mission. And he created the spacewalker that you see on your screen there. So this digital asset can be enjoyed as an augmented reality spacewalker that anyone can check out and play with. And here's how it works. I got to play with this a little bit yesterday. It's pretty cool. But we'll have a QR code for everyone at home to scan with your phone, and the spacewalker will become an AR model on your phone that you can play with. You can adjust the scale and position it as you want, rather, and then snap a photo with it wherever that spacewalker is. It's actually pretty fun. I got to kind of play around with them. We walked around here a little bit and popped the spacewalker over there and took a photo of it. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so at home, we'd love to see what you can do with it. So be sure to tag any posts with the hashtag Ax-1. That is AX and the number 1.
Yeah, I personally, I'm not really into NFTs, but that is beautiful. This might be what gets me in.
Yeah. So as you said, that's not it, right? We're taking this one step further with the goal of encouraging people all over the world to have some fun with this mission. We are announcing that the Ax-1 crew is going to mint the spacewalker as an NFT from space. So for all of those NFT collectors out there, the Axiom NFT marketplace is launching right now. And over the course of this mission, it will feature digital artwork, just like Michael Kagan's spacewalker there, associated with this historic mission. So if you'd like to join, the website is nft.axiomspace.com, and it is going live right now. So we'll be announcing the live auction for the Spacewalker NFT during the mission. So be sure to visit nft.axiomspace.com for more info over the coming days. And that's where you're going to find the QR code to the augmented reality spacewalker. So again, head to nft.axiomspace.com, scan the QR code, go have some fun, play with the spacewalker, put them wherever you want, and have a blast with them.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So just a quick check-in. You can see there Falcon 9 remains on the pad. We are continuing to count down to our liftoff at just under 1 hour and 30 minutes from now. As you can see on the right-hand side, the crew are in their seats, and the team on the left is conducting the leak check of that side hatch. For those of you that have just joined us recently, we did attempt to close the side hatch earlier, closed it, but when we performed that leak check initially, saw a very small loss of pressure there. So we reopened it, and then the teams wiped down the seal, inspected it. Didn't really know anything major, so closed it back up, and we're now performing that leak check once again. The process for that is basically we inflate the seal that is around the side hatch, and we leave it inflated for 5 minutes. We monitor that pressurization, and once it holds that pressure for 5 minutes, we get the green light.
Yeah, and as John and I mentioned earlier too, it's not uncommon for things like this to happen, and that's why we have checks in place, and we have things like verifying end items, and it's a huge part of what the ground control team here plays is, verifying that those leak rates, like what you talked about. Are you holding a leak rate for the right amount of time and at the right pressure, and what does your trending data look like? So, it's all part of the huge network of teammates on the ground that are supporting the mission and just making sure that every step along the way is safe. And
Dragon SpaceX for post-ingress briefing.
Go ahead, Arthur.
All right, MLA. While we continue through the side hatch leak check, it continues to look like a great day to fly. Dragon, Falcon, and 39 Alpha all look good to fly. Systems are nominal, and we have no deltas to the pre-briefed emergency deorbit sites.
That's about as good as a report we can ask for, thanks.
I concur with that. And for awareness, we will be stepping into Falcon 9 operator comm check shortly.
Copy.
All right, that voice that you just heard was Arthur Berrialt, our SpaceX core, who basically is the primary communicator between the teams here on the ground and the crew. Really important role because for us we can see what's going on. We've got the views here, but think about it for the crew. They can't really see what's on the other side of that side hatch. So important updates there to keep them informed. That being said,
Dragon, GNC will begin the Falcon 9 operator comm check with you at this point. Go ahead, GNC.
Dragon, GNC on countdown 1, comm check.
You're live and clear, Cyrus. How many?
GNC loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by propulsion engineer.
Dragon, prop on countdown 1, comm check.
Prop, Endeavor, you're live and clear, Charles.
Prop, loud and clear. Stand by for comm check with the avionics engineer.
Dragon, avionics on countdown 1, comm check.
Avionics, Endeavor, good morning, call.
Avionics loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the ground segment engineer.
Dragon, ground segment on countdown 1, comm check.
Loud and clear, Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, ground segment has you loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by launch control.
Dragon, launch control on countdown 1, comm check.
Launch control, Endeavor, you're loud and clear.
Launch control loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the chief engineer.
Dragon, comm check from chief engineer.
Good morning, chief engineer. This is Endeavor, you're loud and clear.
This completes the Falcon 9 responsible engineering comm checks. Godspeed.
Thank you.
All right, there you just heard the completion of the comm checks. Basically, the ground teams, the various leads for the ground systems here, going around and making sure that the communication pathway to the crew is clear, loud and clear, as you heard them say. Voices that we heard there included SpaceX core Arthur Berrialt, the chief engineer for this mission, Bill Gerstenmayer, and yeah, just around the horn for those comm checks with the crew. On the left-hand side of your screen, just a quick check-in. The team there is performing the recheck, the recheck for that side hatch closure. So we did attempt to close the side hatch and perform a leak check, and we saw just a very slight loss of pressure during that leak check. So we opened it back up, wiped it down. Teams didn't know anything major when they inspected it, so now we've reclosed it, and we are reperforming that leak check, which includes basically getting it up to pressurization or pressure 3 minutes, and then holding it at that pressure for 5 minutes. So right now we're in that 5-minute wait period. So as you can tell for the crew, it's a lot of waiting. It's we do this and now we wait, and now we do this and then we wait.
Hurry up and wait, as they say. Yeah, and Kate, as you mentioned, and as we heard, on the concurrently while we're doing that repress and recheck, we're also trying to concurrently perform those comm checks, right, and gain some time back as well. So crew, as they're in their vehicle waiting, they're still on track for their mission, right? They're still zeroed in on exactly what they've got to do, exactly how they can provide assistance in providing and following their procedures and working with the ground teams to stay on track
for sure. And it's worth noting, we do build margin into the timeline for this exact reason. If you followed our human spaceflight missions before, sometimes you hear the Corps indicate that we have X amount of minutes of margin. So yeah, for this exact reason, we do build in that margin. And as I said earlier, the countdown itself is what aligns all the various teams working to support the launch on the same timeline. So it's what makes sure that everybody syncs up. And so allowing us to, perform those comm checks while doing the repress and recheck, just making sure that all those teams are continuing to remain aligned.
Yeah. I think during this waiting period too, crews sitting there thinking about not only what do I have to do today, right now, like I'm waking up and I'm getting my suit checked out, there's steps all along the way, and I can only imagine how they're thinking about what their mission is ahead of them, right? All of the work that we've heard that they're trying to accomplish on orbit, their objectives, they're sitting there thinking, how can I be the most effective I can be over the next 8 days, right? And so I'm just thinking about the things that they're bringing up there with them, right? Little mementos that they're bringing up there with them. We heard some interesting things, during their pre-briefing last week. Certain tokens and mementos of home that they're bringing up and what that means to them. That all plays a part of this mission. What kind of keeps them going through these waiting periods? Thinking about what am I going to do up there? What does this mean to me? What does it mean to the people back home? And they're just ready to get up there and start working towards those objectives.
So we're continuing to monitor the recheck of that side hatch closure.
Dobra, jestem po dłuższej przerwie, moi drodzy. Witam jeszcze raz serdecznie. Kto dopiero dotarł na transmisję, to przypominam, że oglądamy start misji Ax-1, realizowana przez Axiom Space we współpracy ze SpaceX. SpaceX dostał kontrakt na dostarczenie astronautów swoją rakietą, swoją kapsułą na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną. Start dzisiaj o 17:17. Kosmiczni turyści spędzą na stacji 8 dni, a suma pobytu w kosmosie to około 10 dni. Czekamy na start. Godzina 19 została nam do startu, a dokowanie jutro Po godzinie 12 z tego co pamiętam. Chyba nawet sam mówiłem 12:45.
Minutes until launch, and we're starting to see people gather, and really, the excitement is starting to build. And just hearing the confirmation that that leak check was good, that side hatch is going to stay closed. The crew is, I think, at that moment, as I mentioned before, the seat rotation. That's an exciting moment because it's like you're locked into the roller coaster, and here we go. And now hearing that side hatch is good, it's closed, and it's going to remain closed until they splash back down. So when the crew ingresses and egresses from the space station, they will use the forward hatch. So that side hatch now will remain closed until they return to Earth after splashdown.
Right, that's a huge step forward in today's launch. So, in addition to the scope of the science and research and outreach being performed on this mission, Ax-1 is also taking some time to better understand the role that food plays on orbit. A partner on this mission and a good friend of Axiom Space is Chef Jose Andres and the team at Think Food Group. Known for his visionary culinary creations and humanitarian efforts, Chef Jose's World Central Kitchen is doing important work helping to feed those who are displaced.
Chef Jose also prepared the meals and snacks accompanying our crew to the ISS. In space, astronauts have limited kitchen equipment and ingredients on hand, so having already prepared meals that are both appetizing and comforting is a great way to feel connected to home.
Right, so joining us now is Chef Charisse Gray, who you saw in that video, Director for Research and Development at Think Food Group. Chef, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Chef, clearly Think Food Group is doing instrumental work in bringing people together with food, and has for a long time. What has been your team's mantra or ethos when it comes to creating these new dishes?
Well, at Think Food Group, our mission is to change the world through the power of food. And that's why we're so incredibly proud to partner with Axiom Space to have created the meals for the Ax-1 multinational crew headed to the International Space Station. As Chef Jose Andres often talks about building longer tables, this is such an extraordinary opportunity to do just that, bringing together the hardworking Ax-1 crew through food, reaching all the way to space.
So, as a partner on Ax-1, the culinary teams at Think Food Group have developed a meal to be shared amongst the crew in space on the space station. What did you put together?
So, partner on the food mission was born on a friendship between Chef Jose and fellow Spaniard and veteran astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, the commander of the upcoming mission. And as a result, we really wanted to lean on the flavors and traditional dishes of their native Spain. So we've made secreto de cerdo with pisto, which is a prized cut of Iberico pork with tomatoes, onions, eggplant, and peppers. And the second meal is chicken and mushroom paella. Paella is, Spain's quintessential rice dish, and the Ax-1 crew will be able to...
A ja już po herbacie zastanawiam się nad kolejną kawą, czy sobie nie zrobić. Takie małe filiżaneczki mam chyba. Nic się nie stanie, jak jeszcze jedną, a potem jeszcze jedną.
Now, can you tell us a
Godzina
little
15.
more about the significance of those
No
choices?
tak, akurat, na 2 kawy.
We wanted to be sure that we created meals that were not only nutrient rich, but satisfying and really delicious. Unlike, traditional ready-to-eat meals that are designed for quick consumption. As chefs, we understand the importance of really, bold and memorable flavors and created food that you'd really want to eat anywhere in the world, or in this case, out of this world.
Exactly right. So what were some of the challenges that you faced in trying to prepare those meals for out of this world?
To make meals that are going to be traveling, for over 250 miles away, and putting in the forefront really crew member safety, they had to be very carefully prepared. And so the Ax-1 crew meals were thermostabilized through the retort process.
Now, your teams also put together a set of snacks that the crew is taking with them to enjoy at various points on their journey to the ISS. We were fortunate enough to receive a few of those extra packets, and we'd love to share a snack together with you. What do we have here?
So you're holding one of the pouches of the actual meals. Let me see what you've got there. It looks like you might have got the pisto or the rice.
I think I have
the
the
rice.
Valencia rice with chicken.
Yes.
And I just spilled it everywhere.
There's the pisto there.
Wow, just immediately the aroma
Yeah.
just is it's strong. It's in a very good way.
Yeah.
It's my mouth is already watering.
Well, and that's
John,
something
what do you have?
Yeah, so I've got the pork stew, and I've got to say the same. The aroma I think is really what I would appreciate if I was on orbit and opening this up for the first time. Right? We've heard so much, especially on the crew system side at Axiom. How much aroma plays into just enjoying your meal, and that can go away during your time on orbit. So I think it's a really important aspect to consider when you're preparing meals.
But also, snacks are super important. So, along with those meals, the Ax-1 astronauts will also be able to enjoy some really Spanish delicacies such as jamón ibérico de bellota, jamón salchichón from Fermin, Casas de Juelo olive oil, and Marcona almonds by Albert Adria.
This is way better than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, I've got to say, this is amazing, Chef Charisse. Thank you very much for putting this together, and thank you for letting us enjoy it. I was talking earlier about the importance that aroma plays, right, and being able to enjoy your meal. And we've often heard crew members reflect on how there's really just no better way to see a world without borders up there than just simply looking out the window while on orbit and enjoying some time together. So, something as simple as sharing a meal, right, together, but while looking back at home, can really be a pivotal step in coming to that realization together. So thank you very much for putting this together for our crew. Thank you for working with them. And thank you for joining us today and letting us enjoy this together. So we wish you and the Think Food Group as much success as possible, and we look forward to hearing how it turns out on orbit.
Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing us to be part of such a momentous.
Thank you for sharing that with us. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well,
after you.
I was going to say, at Axiom, we are hard at work building the next destination in low Earth orbit. And Axiom Station is being designed as a true continuation and evolution of the International Space Station. So much gained over the last 20 plus years in orbit. Axiom's goal is to build upon the successes and lessons learned over that time while bridging the gap between the ISS and commercial spaceflight. Ultimately, allowing greater access to that knowledge and capability ensures that humans continue to benefit from time spent in low Earth orbit. Axiom's first private astronaut missions are crucial steps in learning how the relationships between government and private industry can grow and change.
The International Space Station is really an amazing engineering achievement. In the last 21 years, there's been permanent human presence in space. We've slowly progressed from capsules and vehicles that visited for a short time to places like Skylab, where we ultimately did a 90-day mission back in the 70s. Now we're on ISS for a year or more. And now it's time for the next space station.
Axiom Space is about making living and working in space commonplace. The government has forecasted a demand for flying NASA crew members to low Earth orbit to conduct basic research and furtherance of their goals of deep space exploration.
Godzina 10 minut do startu. Zerkam sobie na Twittera firmy SpaceX, czy jakieś nowe informacje może się pojawiły na temat tego startu, bo jeżeli coś złego by miało się dziać, to tam najszybciej by to się pojawiło, ale nie ma nic. Nadal 90% szans na start. Pogoda bardzo dobra na Florydzie, więc godzina i troszkę zostały nam do startu misji Ax-1.
Two modules are being built by our partner Thales Alenia, and we're heading to what is called CDR, which is a critical design review. That really means that 90% of the design is done, and then you're ready to go to manufacturing. So HAB1 is that first module. It has 4 crew quarters, it has payload accommodations, and it has all of the systems required to keep crew healthy and alive. So the plan is we'll fly 4 separate modules to the ISS. When we arrive with the 4th module, it'll have what we need to be independent of the ISS.
So a lot of thought went into how do we allow it to grow. When we look at the future, we have thoughts on how we could double the number of crew every 5 years.
There's a lot of excitement here about the Ax-1 mission. Everyone understands that it's a very historic mission. We are just so excited to be part of that and having our people enable this historic moment.
The Ax-1 mission provides us the opportunity to refine our flight techniques and operations concepts in order to meet the higher complexity of operating a space station in orbit. That moment where we're captured and birthed to the International Space Station will be a moment that defines how we move forward as a species in low Earth orbit. This will be really the first time a fully commercial element has been part of the complex.
Axiom Station is going to allow humanity to be a multi-planet species. We pull that off, we change the world.
And speaking of growing and expanding opportunities in low Earth orbit, this Axiom mission adds to a story that began in 2003. In Israel, Eitan Stiba is not just becoming the second Israeli astronaut in the country's history, but he is following on the legacy of Ilan Ramon. For Israel, this is a mission of peace and hope, and they have called this mission Rakia, which is a word that means the heavens or firmament in English. So to tell us a little bit more about the Rakia mission, we send you now to our good friends in Tel Aviv, Israel, who are actively monitoring today's launch efforts.
Thank you, John and Kate, and thank you for joining us here at the Rakia headquarters in Tel Aviv. I'm Omri Doron, and together with me is the Israeli team of Rakia and its partners who have worked day and night to make this mission possible. Now, all joined together for this exciting launch of Ax-1 to the International Space Station. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis are watching us from their homes. In Israel, we're at a very exciting moment. For the first time in 19 years, and for only the second time in our nation's history, one of our own will be in space again, Israeli astronaut Eitan Stiba. Eitan is dedicating his journey to the Rakia mission. And what that means is that his time in space will be devoted to fulfilling the innovative ideas and creative dreams that were chosen by the people of Israel for Rakia. Every part of this Rakia mission has been developed in Israel with the goal to be impactful and innovative. For an Israeli child, this will be the first time to hear Hebrew lessons and demonstrations on the ISS. For Israeli scientists, artists, and educators, this will be a rare opportunity to perform their works in the unique microgravity environment with a home-trained astronaut. This will contribute greatly to international and Israeli research industries. Now, during the next 10 days, thousands will visit this venue and get to know the story of Rakia and Ax-1. Here, our Rakia Mission Control Center will provide a unique opportunity for visitors to see behind the scenes of human spaceflight throughout Eitan Stiba's Rakia mission. It is our hope that those who follow Eitan on his journey understand that the Rakia mission promotes professional collaborations and manifests values of peace, innovation, social responsibility, and sustainability. It strives to connect the people of Israel and the world to these values and inspire dreams of possibility, because no dream is beyond reach. Now, as we close from Tel Aviv, I'd like to present a short movie that will further highlight the significant efforts of the Rakia mission.
Just in case you find yourself leading an inspiring mission to space, here's a packing list that might help. You start with the basics. Ever-expanding dreams. Respect for borders mixed with utter disregard for them. Dozens of wishes. A poem. Your favorite soundtrack. Your biggest hopes. A hunger for miracles. Endless amounts of innovations, like brainwave measuring device, groundbreaking blood test through capillaries, and laughing in the face of lenses manufacturing capabilities. A new outlook on storms. An entire platform that pushes science forward, because there is no I in space. Dreams to be realized. Tips from friends who showed you the way. Two ounces of inspiration. Your inner child. Because the one thing that's more important than to travel light is to make sure travel enlightens an entire generation. Thousands of schools that joined the mission. your nation's brightest young inquisitive minds, a sense of humor, a prayer just in case, a few words of wisdom, 306,757 to be exact, and another 4 to be exact. Amazing partners, local and foreign. And a big thank you to those who made it possible, or just a big. Akia, there is no dream beyond reach.
We're just over 63 minutes away from launch. Everything continues to go well out at Pad 39A for the Axiom mission flight to the International Space Station. Right now, Falcon 9 team is in the middle of the fuel bleed through the Merlin engines. That's going well. We've also done checkouts on the first and second stages. We're doing some final data checks. That's also looking good. Up on the Dragon capsule, you can see the crew access arm. The seal from the White Room has actually been deflated. You can see it's pulled away a little bit. We're getting ready for the advanced team to leave the pad at about T-minus 1 hour. So they're on track right now to close out. We did have a good side hatch leak check. And so we're doing just the very last steps to get the capsule ready for flight and then leave the pad. And of course, in the background, as you can see on the monitors or on your screens, it's blue skies over Kennedy Space Center, Pad 39A. Weather's looking good, both in the local area, as well as when we head northeast towards the space station, the ascent trajectory looks good. So at T-minus 1 hour and 2 minutes, all systems are go.
All right, well, you're looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket and Dragon spacecraft that is in the final stages of preparation to launch the world's first all-private astronaut mission to the International Space Station in just over 1 hour from now. Today's launch marks the next step in evolution of the human spaceflight story. This is the first of a number of planned private astronaut missions, or PAMs, by Axiom Space to the International Space Station, and it represents the culmination of years of hard work between both government and private entities to open up the doors to low Earth orbit. My name is John Rackham, and I am the Crew Systems Deputy Manager at Axiom Space, based out of Houston, Texas.
For awareness, we are cycling orbit tank isolation valves to equalize low flow pressure.
All right, just some back and forth there between the crew and the core. My name is Kate Tice. I'm the Quality Systems Engineering Manager here at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. With our coverage now expanding to NASA television, I'd like to welcome friend from NASA, Dan Hewitt, coming to us from Johnson Space Center over at Houston, Texas. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Kate, great to see you and the Johns. We're excited to join and get this milestone mission off the ground.
Liftoff time is still holding, let's see, for 11:17 a.m. Eastern Time, and currently tracking no issues with Falcon 9 or Dragon. The range remains green, and as you can see there with that shot, the weather is definitely cooperating.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day for launch.
What a gorgeous shot. Now, over the last 3 hours, Axiom astronauts Michael Lopez Alegria, Larry Connor, Mark Pathy, and Eitan Stibba donned their SpaceX suits in our new suit-up room and were then transported to the pad where our crew entered the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft that you see there live on your screen.
Right, and since arriving at the spacecraft, our crews were helped by the closeout engineers or advanced team to get into their seats, attach their suits to special umbilicals that provide breathing air and a communication link to Dragon systems. And at that point, they conducted successful leak checks and communication checks with the core.
Dobra, moi drodzy, bo chyba przez chwilę do was mówiłem przy wyłączonym mikrofonie. Na szczęście tutaj zbyt wiele czasu nie minęło. Beata, cześć, witaj na kanale. Natomiast, żebym nie stracił znowu wątku, oglądamy dzisiaj start misji Ax-1 o godzinie 17:17, czyli za już niecałą godzinę w kierunku Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej poleci 4 astronautów. Są to kosmiczni turyści, czyli mamy wycieczkę na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną. Spędzą na niej 8 dni. W kosmosie spędzą 10 dni, no bo doliczamy czas potrzebny na dotarcie oraz na powrót. Panowie będą robili na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. Ponoć mają wykonywać jakieś eksperymenty. Eksperymentów ma być dla nich przygotowanych przynajmniej kilkadziesiąt do wykonania. No to jest właśnie ciekawe, bo jak wiecie, Międzynarodowa Stacja Kosmiczna, no to raczej funkcjonuje jak taki porządny szwajcarski zegarek. Tam jest chyba wszystko zaplanowane już z dość dużym wyprzedzeniem. Każdy wie, co ma robić, zna swoje zadania. No i nagle pojawiają się tam 4 niezapowiedziane osoby. Tak niezapowiedziane może w cudzysłowie, bo prawdopodobnie już to było planowane na wiele, wiele miesięcy z wyprzedzeniem, ale mimo wszystko nagle pojawia się 4 obcych i trzeba coś dla nich wymyśleć. Więc na prędce NASA i Axiom coś tam dla nich zaplanowali. Będą robili badania laboratoryjne, eksperymenty. Niewiele o tym piszą, nie znalazłem jakichś dokładnych informacji, czym mają się zajmować, ale będą starali się im grafik na tej międzynarodowej stacji zapełnić. Renata, cześć, jeszcze raz. Beata, witaj. Kiedy start? Chyba już odpowiedziałem, ale za 56 minut.
That's good news. Now, as the countdown continues, let's take a moment to get reacquainted with our crew today.
So the Ax-1 mission is commanded by retired NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, a Spanish-American who was born in Madrid, Spain, and is also called Mission Viejo, California, as well as Boston, Massachusetts home. Michael is a U.S. Navy captain and has flown 3 times aboard the space shuttle and once aboard Soyuz, so he has quite a bit of flight pedigree. He has conducted 10 spacewalks in his career, accumulating 67 hours and 40 minutes total in the vacuum of space. Both of these landmarks are NASA records. In 2021, he was inducted into the Astronaut Hall of Fame. You might hear us call him MLA a few times around here, so if you like acronyms, here's a new one for you.
The pilot for Ax-1 is Larry Connor from Dayton, Ohio. Larry is an entrepreneur, nonprofit activist, investor. He's won aerobatic flying competitions and has summited both Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Rainier. Through Ax-1, he'll become the first private pilot to reach the ISS. He'll also become the first human to reach
Dragon
both...
SpaceX, you are go for section 6 of 4.100. When ready, report go for launch.
That's in work, SpaceX.
All right, so just some back and forth with SpaceX core Arthur Berrialt and the crew, continuing to work through our procedures. Ultimately, next check will be to make sure that the crew inside Dragon Endeavour are go for launch.
Yeah.
Back to our pilot, Larry Connor. As I said, he will also become the first human to reach both the deepest ocean depths and enter the bounds of outer space within 1 year. That's just crazy to me. Larry has been actively involved with the Mayo Clinic and the Cleveland Clinic for many years, helping to understand the effects of aging. This mission will add a new dimension.
Go for launch.
Czy tym razem mają ze sobą jakąś maskotkę? Nie wiem. Może to będzie jakaś niespodzianka. Może po starcie coś tam się pojawi w kabinie Dragona. Wypatrujcie.
Maria
całą paczkę krakersów wciągnęła. No to Maria, co ty będziesz wieczorem oglądała na filmie? Co będzie jadła do filmu.
Yeah, so really good news there.
Yeah.
Druga paczka gdzieś tam jest jeszcze ukryta.
Mission Specialist 1, Aton's
Ja póki co kawą się zapycham. Kawa jedna za drugą wlatują. Crackers, może nie, ale chipsy jakieś wieczorkiem, tak nie wiadomo.
Columbia tragedy in 2003.
Dobra, mamy teraz sylwetki naszych astronautów.
In the Israeli Air Force, where he received the Distinguished Aviator Medal, and today he is an impact investor and philanthropist. In collaboration with the Ramon Foundation, the Israel Space Agency, and the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, and the Ministry of Education, Stiebel will fly to the ISS under the Rakia banner and the maxim, "There is no dream beyond reach." During his time on the ISS, Stiebel will facilitate scientific experiments, educational outreach, and one of my personal favorites, artistic activities.
Mark Pathy is an entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist, as well as mission specialist
Ethan
number 2
Stieb,
on this Ax-1
to jest jakiś
mission.
Izraelczyk.
Pathy is currently the chief executive
Osoba
officer
całkowicie
and
widzę
chairman
tutaj
of
prywatna, ale jakiś,
Maverick, a privately owned investment
tak powiem
and
kolokwialnie, bogacz, założyciel funduszu inwestycyjnego. Także nie dziwię się, że akurat takich dobierają. To są ludzie, których stać na takie kosmiczne wycieczki. Przypomnę, że koszt dla jednej osoby wyliczono na około 55 milionów dolarów. 4 leci, czyli mamy lekko ponad 200 milionów dolarów za ten 8-dniowy pobyt na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. Wcześniej pokazywali też Larry Connor, chyba to był. To też jakiś magnat z branży nieruchomości.
John. And the team behind me flying the space station, the crew on board.
Tak czytam tutaj, bo odszukałem ich sylwetki. Ale ma jakieś doświadczenie też w lotnictwie wojskowym, na myśliwcach latał. Dobra, a szefem całej misji, głównodowodzącym jest były astronauta NASA. To jest ten pan, który ma takie hiszpańskie nazwisko. Lopez Alegria. Michael Lopez Alegria. O, przepraszam, Alegria. Czyżby to był jakiś emerytowany astronauta? Gość ten spędził 67 godzin poza statkiem kosmicznym, czyli jest rekordzistą, jeżeli chodzi o długość przebywania poza, może nie tyle poza, co po prostu w przestrzeni kosmicznej. Okej, czyli ekipa ma ze sobą przynajmniej jednego doświadczonego astronauta. No właśnie, też to zauważyłem już godzinkę temu. Beata, słusznie piszesz, ci panowie no, na pewno nie są poniżej 40. Większość jest raczej już nawet bliżej gdzieś tam 50, także widać, że to są raz, że bardzo doświadczeni, ale już na pewno w swoich, zwłaszcza jeżeli chodzi o tego astronautę z NASA, właśnie Lopeza Alegrię, raczej już emerytowany astronauta, więc panowie młodzi już nie są.
So we're expanding and enabling this step for others to push humanity further as we prepare for the next giant leap. We'll always need this first step. We're here to stay. And now is the time to join us.
And low Earth orbit is that first step. And for NASA, we're in it for the long haul. For the last more than 20 years, we've shown that you can get incredible value from doing research and technology demonstrations in low Earth orbit on the station. And along the way, we've continually increased our work with commercial organizations, flying research, payloads, entire facilities, experiments. And working with U.S. companies to fly cargo and crew to the station. The latter are those laying the groundwork for the mission we're seeing about to launch today. And we're continuing to look ahead onto the horizon, working with companies like Axiom and others to get a jump start on developing new destinations in low Earth orbit where future astronauts, and not just those from NASA, will be able to go and explore and do research just outside of our atmosphere. So we've got our sights on the horizon, and our ultimate goal is for NASA.
Aleksandra, rozumiem, że chcesz, żeby był tak bardzo bogaty, żeby go było na to stać, czy chcesz, żeby inni go tam wysłali?
Heading back to the moon and beyond under the Artemis program. Now, the Ax-1 mission is a good example of the public and private
55 baniek, ale ja myślę, że kasa to nie wszystko. Tam pewnie kolejka już jest długa takich chętnych na lot, więc myślę, że nawet posiadanie wielkich pieniędzy to też nie tak od razu przepustka, żeby w kosmos polecieć. Myślę, że jednak te loty kosmiczne takie bardzo powszechne nie są, mimo tego, że ich jest dużo. SpaceX na ten rok, kurczę, przypomnijcie mi, ja tam nawet komentowałem u Eryka, może to chyba będzie około 50 paru startów. Jeżeli chodzi o ten rok, tak SpaceX planuje, do tego dochodzą jeszcze działalności innych firm, przecież mamy ich mnóstwo, tych prywatnych podmiotów, jak i dużych molochów. Chociaż ten rosyjski chyba teraz będzie miał większe problemy. No, ale tych startów pewnie jest w ciągu roku bliżej 100. To i tak nie jest dużo. Zakładając, że załogowych jest może 1/3. Ktoś na początku się pytał, czy jeszcze w tym 10-leciu uda się jakiemuś szaremu człowieczkowi polecieć. Ja myślę, że nie. Ja myślę, że to za 50 lat nawet może być trudno. Ciężko będzie upowszechnić takie podróże kosmiczne. Nie daj Boże, coś złego się stanie. Znowu któraś z misji się nie powiedzie, jeszcze takich załogowych, no to na długie lata pewnie nam zatrzyma cały proces. Dobra, wracam do kawy. 37 osób. Witam wszystkich serdecznie. Większość pewnie już nas śledzi od dłuższej chwili. Kto jest nowy, to witam na kanale Nocne Niebo. Zachęcam, zostańcie dłużej.
To build a commercial space station. And then all of our international partners on the space station, we're taking with us out into, for example, lunar orbit. The Gateway, which is like a space station in lunar orbit, is going to be a number of nations landing on the moon. We're going to have other nations participate as well.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of partnerships going forward with NASA to accomplish some of the big goals that we have.
Well, as it should be, because our program is internationally, and when we go to Mars, there's going to be a delegation from planet Earth.
Are you excited for today's launch?
Oh, is the Pope Catholic?
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Administrator. I really appreciate you being here, and I hope you enjoyed today's launch.
Thanks a lot.
All right, back to you guys at Hawthorne.
We're at T-minus 46 minutes, 10 seconds. We've just heard from the SpaceX launch director.
Brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence and immediately proceed into launch abort. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. For those operators in firing up 4, in the event of a fire alarm, key operators noted in 57.83 will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated.
Cześć Beata B. Witaj. W ogóle dawno się nie słyszeliśmy. Ostatnio rzadko bywam, ale nadrabiamy. I odpowiadam, tak, dzisiaj lecą, ale to misja załogowa. To nie Starlinki. 4 Starlinki tylko w środku siedzą, takie emerytowane już. No może ten jeden jeszcze tak nie do końca, ten Mark taki się wydaje młodszy. Natomiast tak, lecą turyści nam na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną. Dzisiaj o 17:17, dolecą jutro około 12:45. Planowane dokowanie o tej godzinie będzie właśnie na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. No i posiedzą tam dobrych 8 dni. Ciekawe, czy się będą nudzić. Coś tam dla nich wymyślono. Tak jak mówiłem, mają brać udział w jakichś eksperymentach, no ale cóż takiego będą robić? Może będzie to zaprezentowane na jakichś live'ach ze strony NASA. Jak tylko NASA będzie planowało transmisję z tych wydarzeń, no to oczywiście postaram się je puścić dla Was.
Dragon SpaceX for tablets.
O, widzę, że już rękaw jest odłączany od Dragona, także coraz bliżej do startu. 44 minuty.
To LES arming, I need you to verify that the elastic bands are over the corners of all of the iPads in the vehicle.
Roger, stand by. SpaceX Endeavour, Arthur, I can confirm that the elastic band on the satchels are around the tablets and also tubes.
All right, copy that. Thank you, MLA. And for awareness, that last call came in pretty quiet, so if you could speak up on the upcoming calls, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay.
Floryda, piękna pogoda. Nie wiem jak z temperaturą, natomiast na pewno pogoda pozwala na to, żeby start dzisiaj się odbył. Mamy 90% szans na udany start ze względu na warunki pogodowe na Florydzie. A w Poznaniu potwierdzam, zerkam za okno, tak se wieje jak cholera. Dokładnie tak. Dobrze powiedziane, Beato.
Falcon 9s go, Dragons go. Weather looks good and the range areas are also cleared for launch. So Kate, John, everything is looking good. Inside of 42 minutes, everything continues to go well. Waiting now for launch escape system arming.
Endeavour, SpaceX for launch escape system.
Go ahead, Arthur.
All right, MLA, at this time I can give you a go to step through section 7 of 4.100, close visors and arm the launch escape system.
That should work. SpaceX Endeavour, visors are closed. We are arming the launch escape system.
Dragon, SpaceX. Launch escape system is verified armed.
Copy, SpaceX.
All right, there you heard it. The launch escape system is now armed. You can see there the crew in their seats with the visors down. Launch escape system, is the first of its kind escape system. It provides escape capability all the way to orbit. It's a really important function to have. Obviously, no intention of using it today, but that's what those call-outs were there, back and forth that we just heard.
Right, and as we heard earlier too from Administrator Bill Nelson, the importance of low Earth orbit. So speaking of just how valuable low Earth orbit is, the crew of Ax-1 will be conducting a tremendous amount of science over the course of their 8 days on board the ISS. And not only does that include 25 Axiom managed studies, but it also includes the Axiom crew participating in efforts that extend far beyond this mission. Some of those we actually looked at earlier. One of these broader studies is a series of health monitoring tests before and after the flight. A few days ago, I was able to connect with Dr. Emmanuel Riqueta to talk about the ongoing research this crew will participate in on behalf of the Translation Research Institute for Space Health, also known as TRISH. Here's our conversation.
Dr. Riqueta, welcome. It is wonderful to get to talk to you. Please introduce yourself and tell us, what is TRISH?
Absolutely. My name is Emmanuel Riqueta, and I'm the Chief Medical Officer at the Translational Research Institute for Space Health, and I'm also faculty at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas. The Translational Research Institute for Space Health, or TRISH, we're partners to the Human Research Program at NASA. And one of our main goals is to find and fund new disruptive research that is high risk but potentially high reward, with the end goal of keep humans healthy both in space and on Earth. And we have been working with commercial spaceflight missions since last year, and Axiom 1 is our 4th commercial spaceflight mission.
That's really fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit more about your primary areas of focus or what you're studying on this mission?
Yeah, so TRISH focuses mainly on the high priority areas of human spaceflight research. And,
Aleksandra pyta, czy lądowanie na barce, czy na lądzie? Na barce. Niestety na barce. To mniej widowiskowe.
Confined in space. And the third one is how your body changes while you're in a different gravity field, either a zero-G environment like in space, or during different gravity fields when you are in the moon or Mars.
Okay, interesting. So what kind of systems or hardware are you working with specifically to capture this data?
For this mission, the hardware that we're using is absolutely optimized to provide, number one, the highest quality data, while being still easy to use, easy to implement, and being the lowest burden to the astronauts. So to collect all of this data, for example, vision changes, we have been using a small device, is roughly the size of a shoebox that you can see here. I have this here with me. So this is basically like having an optometrist on a box. Basically, the only thing that you have to do is just grab it, put it on your eyes, look at an object that is roughly 6 feet away from you, and after a few seconds, you get a prescription of your glasses right here. So as I was saying, if there's any changes on astronauts during these missions, we'll be able to see how that changes with this device. We're also looking, I was mentioning, at behavioral changes, how being in an isolated and confined environment has any behavioral aspects. And for this one, we have been using a small tablet like this one, also to test the sensory motor adaptation, the balance disorders, and the space motion sickness. We're using a device like this. And for each of the crew members, we have a set of hardware like this, and it fits. The 4 sets of hardware fits on a medium-sized suitcase, so it is really easy to move wherever it needs to go for launch and landing.
That's wonderful. So, what are some of the intended outcomes or goals of the research you're doing?
Yeah, so some of the outcomes and one of the main applications, number one for spaceflight that we want to get from this research is that short duration missions like Axiom 1 are very, very relevant in the context of Artemis missions. When we go back to the moon, the first missions are going to be roughly the same duration as Axiom 1. So anything new that we learn from these missions is going to be absolutely valuable. Really, every new piece of data that we collect in spaceflight could potentially solve and be that last piece of the puzzle that we're looking to complete what we need to know.
Well, Dr. Riqueta, thank you so much for speaking with us today. We wish you the best of luck.
It is my pleasure. Thank you.
All All right, we are about 30 minutes out from launch of the historic Ax-1 mission. It has taken an enormous effort from an incredibly dedicated and hardworking team to get to this moment. And that team wanted to take an opportunity to wish the crew of Ax-1 well and Godspeed.
Hey Ax-1, we're so happy for you guys.
Za 35 minut polecą. No tak, pozycja niewygodna. Na szczęście po starcie jakiś czas, nie pamiętam jaki, ale na pewno nie tak od razu, będą mogli zejść sobie z tych niewygodnych siedzeń i trochę po kapsule się rozruszać. Także te 20 godzin, które spędzą w drodze na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną, no na pewno nie spędzą w tej pozycji. Na pewno będą mogli korzystać z tego, co tam w kapsule jest. Kami ekstra, dobra, to potem sobie zobaczę.
We want to send you all off with good wishes in this incredible journey. Godspeed.
It has been such an honor to watch and support you guys as you prepare for this moment. I'm so proud of each one of you for the dedication, the long hours, and the hard work you put into making this a meaningful mission.
Hello, Axiom astronauts. Thanks for stepping up to the plate for this amazing journey.
You guys have trained hard.
Siedzą w pozycji leżącej. O, to jest chyba najlepsza odpowiedź, Kami, dla ciebie.
Mission for the first private astronauts to go to the ISS. It's happening. Wave to us from up above because we'll be thinking of you from down below.
We're the Axiom safety team. We just want you to know that we are really proud of you and we've got your back. We're wishing you a safe and successful mission, and we'll see you when you get back on the ground.
Hi guys, we're the Axiom Soft Goods team, and we just want to wish you a good mission and get back safely.
It's a real pleasure to be talking with you guys right now, and we're super excited for you. I'm here to cheer you on along with the entire Crew Systems team. Yay. Thanks for everything you're doing.
I wish you all the very best, the greatest of success, and the most fun and the most challenging, interesting thing in your life. Go big and enjoy your time on the ISS. We'll see you back on the ground.
Hey guys, I am so proud of the Axiom 1 crew. It's so fun to be a part of something bigger than you and to contribute. Most important thing to remember, guys, take some time to look out the window and appreciate where you are. It's space.
We're T-minus 31 minutes and 40 seconds, counting down to the first all-private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. Now, a few minutes ago, Falcon 9 propellant loading began on time at T-minus 35 minutes. RP-1 fuel loading is underway on both the first and second stages. Liquid oxygen loading is underway on the first stage. Now, we'll finish up fuel loading on the second stage at about T-minus 20 minutes, doesn't take very long. And then we'll begin loading liquid oxygen on the second stage at about T-minus 16 and a half minutes. We'll continue propellant loading on Falcon 9 up until about T-minus 2 minutes. Now, speaking of propellants, the Dragon spacecraft was loaded with its propellants about a week and a half ago, just a few miles down the road from the launch site at what we call Dragonland. In order to fly, Dragon needs a fuel and an oxidizer.
Start of stage 1 cryohelium loading.
For the fuel, we use monomethylhydrazine, or MMH, and nitrogen tetroxide, or NTO, for oxidizer. Now together, these propellants feed the Draco engines that will maneuver Dragon on orbit, changing its attitude, raising its orbit to get to the space station. But that propellant also serves a second purpose, and that would be to use in the 8 Super Draco engines that would power the launch escape system in an escape scenario. But right now on pad 39A, nice view of Falcon 9 with Dragon there. You can see the crew access arm has retracted away from the Dragon spacecraft. The 4-person crew is inside Dragon right now. The launch escape system is armed. Propellant is going into the Falcon 9. So since we are at this stage with launch escape system armed, that means the 8 Super Draco engines inside the Crew Dragon are ready, if needed, to launch the capsule away from the Falcon 9 rocket in an instant should there be any kind of emergency associated with the rocket or the pad. We have the ability to use a launch escape system right now if it was needed. A couple other status items. Weather, as you can see, looks good. Probability of violating the launch commit criteria is less than 10%. The only thing we're watching is wind gusts, but we believe, having seen the wind for the last several hours, everything continues to look good. That should not be an issue. Weather is also good in the Atlantic Ocean should we need to use a launch escape splashdown site for the Dragon capsule. We've also got upper altitude winds we've been checking out. Balloons have been released by the range here recently. We continue to look good for upper altitudes as Falcon 9 flies through the periods of maximum dynamic pressure. And finally, on the range, of course, we have cleared the danger areas, the hazard, the caution areas. Everybody's out of there except the 4-person crew up in the Dragon capsule, very top of the rocket you can see in the picture. So coming up, T-minus 28 minutes, 30 seconds, everything continuing to look good on Falcon 9 with Dragon for the Axiom 1 mission.
Let's take a moment now to get acquainted with the vehicles that you see there on your screen. That's a live view of Falcon 9 with Dragon, our spacecraft on top. Falcon 9 rocket is a rocket, Falcon 9 rocket with the Dragon spacecraft on top together stands about 215 feet, which is almost 30 feet taller than the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy, which is 183 feet. Falcon 9 is a reusable 2-stage liquid-fueled rocket, which means that it's kind of like 2 rockets in one, the first stage and the second stage.
Very cool. So talking a bit about that first stage. The first stage is the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle that you see there. Has that nice patina. It's been reused a little bit. It's covered in soot from a previous mission. That first stage is responsible for accelerating Falcon and Dragon through the Earth's atmosphere and into space. To do that, it has 9 Merlin engines at the bottom of that first stage. Prior to liftoff, the Falcon 9 first stage is loaded up with nearly 1 million pounds of fuel and liquid oxygen. And the Merlin engines on the first stage are optimized for sea level. These achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent and descent. The first stage accelerates the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space and then separates the rest of the rocket at about 2.5 minutes into flight.
From there, the first stage will do what no other orbital-class rocket in the world can do. It'll make its way back to Earth and target a landing on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, which you see there on your screen. The seas look great. The blue skies, I don't think it could be any more picture perfect.
No, it's like a desktop right there, I think.
Our drone ships are essentially autonomous, powered spaceports that allow our rocket to land over the ocean. For reference, our drone ships are equivalent to the size of a football field. So while it may have looked kind of small on your screen, they're actually pretty ginormous in real life.
It's got to be to hold a rocket, right? As mentioned previously, Falcon 9 is a 2-stage rocket. It's 2 rockets in one. Above the first stage is the second stage. Now, the second stage has a single Merlin vacuum, or MVAC, engine, which ignites after the first stage separates.
Cryo-helium loading.
Now, the second stage is essentially a smaller version of the first stage, and whereas the first stage is designed to power the vehicle out of Earth's atmosphere and the forces of gravity, the second stage is specifically designed to operate in the vacuum of space. The second stage powers the Dragon spacecraft to its specific targeted drop-off point in orbit.
The Dragon spacecraft is capable of carrying up to 7 passengers to and from Earth orbit and beyond, but for today's mission, it is carrying 4 members of the Axiom 1 crew. It is the first private spacecraft to take humans to the space station and the only spacecraft currently flying that is capable of returning significant amounts of...
To jestem. My God, moi z przedszkola wrócili. Zaczyna się weekend dla mnie. Oby był bezpieczny. A co się dzieje w komentarzach? Falcon prawie nówka? No prawie. No już 4 misje za tym Falconem. Rakieta nośna już była wykorzystana 4 razy. Kapsuła też nie pierwszej świeżości. Och, jakie piękne chemtrailsy na niebie widać nad Florydą. No ale okopcony ten Falcon, o kurczę, faktycznie mogli go tam doczyścić na myjni.
are ready for launch.
Nie, do takiej misji załogowej to powinien być błysk.
Of this mission will look like.
Right, so once we hit T-0, we will watch Falcon 9 and Dragon lift off from historic launch pad 39A and make their ascent. At about 50 seconds into flight, Falcon 9's engines will throttle down to help pass through the period of maximum dynamic pressure on the rocket, or what we typically refer to as max Q. It's worth noting that once we hit max Q, the vehicle will be going supersonic.
Once we're through the period of maximum dynamic pressure, we can throttle up our Merlin engines again. From there, at about 2.5 minutes into flight, we have a series of 3 events that happen in rapid succession. The first of which is MECO, or main engine cutoff. This is where all 9 Merlin engines shut off in preparation for stage separation, which, as the name suggests, that is where the first stage detaches from the second stage, with the first stage making its way back to Earth for landing as the second stage continues on its journey with the third event.
Right, now SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1, is where the Merlin vacuum engine lights up and propels the second stage, along with our Ax-1 crew, into orbit. As Stage 2 heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit, Stage 1 will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first stage is the entry burn, where 3 of the Merlin 1D engines will reignite and then shut down. This helps to slow the stage down in preparation for entry back into Earth's atmosphere.
While the first stage is heading back to Earth, the second stage will cut off its singular Merlin engine that was ignited right after stage separation. Once this happens, we'll wait for confirmation of good orbital insertion. About 90 seconds after Dragon gets into orbit, Falcon 9 will land back on Earth. The landing burn, which is a single engine burn, will bring the vehicle's speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship at about 9.5 minutes into the mission.
And while Falcon 9's first stage is landing, Dragon is preparing to separate from the second stage. At about 3 minutes after the second stage gets into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with its 4-person crew drifting away from the second stage. Now, once Dragon is a short distance away, it will begin checking out its Draco maneuvering thrusters to make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage.
And lastly, the nose cone deploy sequence will initiate just before T plus 12 minutes and finish around T plus 15 minutes. And this sequence will expose Dragon's docking mechanism in advance of its arrival at the International Space Station. So, as you can tell, it's a pretty jam-packed 12 minutes.
Yeah, pay attention, pay close attention to what you're listening to.
Don't blink.
No dobra, jestem z powrotem. 52 osoby na transmisji.
Dan?
Także witam wszystkich, 54 już. Zaczynacie się schodzić. Podejrzewam, że jest to związane z tym, że coraz bliżej do godziny startu. 17:17, dokładnie o tej godzinie, czyli za 21 minut 30 sekund, startuje misja Ax-1. Dla przypomnienia, jest to misja, w której 4 kosmicznych turystów zostanie dostarczonych, tak brzydko powiedziane, trochę dostarczonych na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną i spędzą tam 8 dni. Tak, myślę, że każdy musi mieć dopuszczalną wagę. Chris Rob już w przeszłości było tak, że ktoś wygrał bilet na lot w kosmos. Właśnie chyba SpaceX organizowało taką loterię. No i niestety osoba, która wygrała, była za ciężka i musiała oddać komuś ten bilet. Taka historia była. Nie pamiętam, czy dokładnie w ten sposób to wyglądało, ale waga ma znaczenie.
And once they get there, they're going to get welcomed by the Expedition 67 crew, which is made up of 7 individuals.
Widzę, ktoś ma 2 tygodnie urlopu wypoczynkowego. Pozdrowienia dla urlopowiczów.
ESA European astronaut, and they're joined by 3 cosmonauts that just arrived on station.
Czemu w takim okresie, kiedy pogody nie ma?
So it's going to take them about 20.5 hours to get there. That docking right now is targeted for.
Ile za to zapłacili? $50 milionów od osoby.
6:45 a.m. here in Houston.
Taki jest koszt wysłania. Ja nie wiem, ile oni bezpośrednio płacili. Nie? Czy każdy z nich wyłożył, czy to w jakiś sposób było współfinansowane przez firmę Axiom. Nie wiem, natomiast wyliczono, że $55 milionów to jest koszt pobytu dla pojedynczej osoby. dla pojedynczego astronauty z tej grupy, która teraz leci, koszt pobytu na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej.
Hatch open, and then we'll welcome the Ax-1 crew on board the space station. So a lot to come with that 20.5-hour journey, but all that's going to start with a launch. So I'll send it back over to Hawthorne as we get into the final phases of the countdown. Back over to you, John.
Right. Well, Dan, as you mentioned, it all starts with the launch. And Kate, it's looking like it's getting pretty busy here. People are excited about seeing a launch, right?
Yeah, we're just now under 20 minutes until liftoff. As you could probably tell by the noise, the crew here, excuse me, the crowd here in Hawthorne, we're at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, is starting to gather just beyond mission control here in the building. And you might be able to tell by the ambient noise, in addition to the live production noises that you also hear. You know, we are in a rocket factory. But yeah, you can see there the crowd is starting to grow behind the mission.
Lot z zakwaterowaniem. No, powiem Ci, że warunki nie są tam pewnie za fajne. Podejrzewam, że tam jest bardzo ciasno. Kto zna mój kanał, to pewnie widział filmik taki krótki, który kiedyś wrzuciłem. Taki bardzo bezpośredni na temat tego, jak brzydko pachnie na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. Niestety na filmach, które nam NASA udostępnia, to tego nie czuć, tego nie widać, no bo jak, ale tam ponoć zwłaszcza w okolicach modułu, który jest między innymi wykorzystywany też na salę ćwiczeń, no to wiecie jak jest w szatni po meczu piłkarskim. Kto miał okazję przebywać w takiej szatni, to mniej więcej wie, jaki jest zapach. No, takie zapachy są pewnie na Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. Tam próbują to wentylować, natomiast tam ten zapach jest albo zły, albo taki bardzo sterylny, taki szpitalny. Tak, tam pewnie jakieś filtry działają. No nie da się otworzyć okna i przewietrzyć.
All right, well, Dan mentioned that, first we have launch, then we got run.
Jutro na 10 000 subów. A tak, bo jutro jest sobota. Chciałem świętować w końcu te 10 000 subów. Chciałem to zrobić wcześniej, no ale Eryk świętował na swoim kanale. W zeszłym tygodniu 25 000 byłem na tym świętowaniu. Myślałem, że odczekam tydzień, żeby nikomu tam jakby w konflikt nie wchodzić. Jeżeli wszystko się uda, to jutro wieczorkiem zrobię live'a, na którym spotkam się z wami. Myślę, że na dobrą godzinkę. I sobie trochę porozmawiamy o nocnym niebie. O nocnym niebie jako kanale, o tym jak minęły nam ostatnie blisko 2 lata, bo tyle trwało zebranie 10 000 subów. Ale to więcej jutro. I czy puści pan live ISS Ziemi? Ale jej nie widać z Ziemi w tej chwili. Nie bardzo rozumiem ISS z Ziemi. Ona była widoczna do 4 kwietnia, więc nie da się puścić tego, jak ona jest widoczna z Ziemi, natomiast mogę poszukać live'a i wrzucić, jak Ziemia wygląda z ISS. To jest akurat łatwiejsze do znalezienia.
Right, and again, some of those things that he talked about, it's all following a timeline, right? And we are listening for those important
16 minut. To co, jeszcze jedna kawa przed startem?
Listening for where are we along in that timeline, so we know exactly.
Albo ci, co się urlopują, to może lampka wina. 17 dla urlopowiczów to już nie jest aż tak wcześnie.
I'm looking at my dashboard here. It looks like fuel load on second stage.
Niech każdy tam zadba o coś, żeby w tej szklance było. Ja chyba jednak kawę sobie zrobię. Trzecia kawa w ciągu tej transmisji, ale naprawdę małe filiżanki, więc nie przejmuję się za bardzo nadmiarem kawy.
Displays there above them, as well as their tablets strapped to their legs.
Right.
Everything continuing to look nominal for liftoff in just about 15 minutes.
And as we approach that liftoff, in these final moments of our countdown to launch, Axiom Space founders Cam Gaffarian and Mike Suffredini wanted to take a moment to reflect on this mission.
Well, this moment for me and Michael is a very special moment in a beginning of many beginnings, right? The launch of Ax-1, going to International Space Station as part of our journey to build the first private commercial space station. And we're so grateful to be here and delighted at this moment as part of this incredible journey to commercialize and privatize low Earth orbit.
On behalf of Cam and I, we'd like to thank the entire team that's made this historic journey possible. The SpaceX team in particular has done a tremendous job of prepping our crew for a launch on their transportation vehicle. The crew itself has done a fantastic job of getting themselves ready and planning their research. NASA, of course, we can't do this without NASA's leadership and support. And to each of you in the Axiom Space family, we couldn't have done it without you. We're looking forward to a bright future together.
63 osoby nas oglądają. Kochani, zachęcam, dołączajcie do dyskusji. Oczywiście subskrybujcie kanał Nocnego Nieba, bo to nie tylko live'y ze startów rakiet. Akurat ta nas bardzo zaciekawiła. Może nie wszystko streamujemy, natomiast ta misja bardzo nas zaciekawiła, ponieważ jest pierwszą turystyczną realizowaną przez SpaceX w kierunku Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej. Międzynarodową stację bardzo lubimy. Lubimy ją oglądać, polujemy na nią przecież regularnie, jak tylko się pojawia nad polskim niebem. Także jeżeli ktoś z tych 60 osób, które nas w tej chwili oglądają, dopiero tutaj się pojawił, to zachęcam. Zostawcie łapkę, zostawcie suba, bo na pewno w przyszłości wiele fajnych ciekawostek Was nie ominie. Chris, to ja Ci powiem, jak to nazwać. Zadałeś pytanie, ile czasu zajmuje się astronomią albo kosmosem, nie wiesz jak to nazwać. Ja Ci powiem tak, obserwacjami. Ja już to tłumaczyłem kilka razy. Od zawsze lubiłem obserwować niebo, obserwować przelatujące samoloty, polować na takie samoloty na wysokościach przelotowych, ustawiać się ze znajomymi pod lotniskiem, robić fajne zdjęcia właśnie startów i lądowań. No i to z czasem przerodziło się też również w takie zainteresowanie obserwacji nieba, tych szerokich pól, tego co jesteśmy w stanie dostrzec bez specjalistycznego sprzętu, ponieważ ja sprzętem takim bardzo zaawansowanym do oglądania oddalonych mocno obiektów, tak zwanych obiektów głębokiego nieba niestety nie dysponuję. I też nie mam jak Wam ich pokazać w łatwy sposób, ale skupiam się na tym, co jest łatwe do uchwycenia, na tym, co można w mieście zobaczyć, no bo też wiele osób tak twierdzi, że oglądanie nieba z miasta jakby mija się z celem, bo nie widać nic ciekawego, jakby niebo jest zanieczyszczone światłem. Nie do końca to jest prawda, wystarczy na 5 minut głowę jednak do góry unieść, przyzwyczaić swój wzrok do ciemnego nieba. Uwierzcie mi, na pewno dużo więcej zobaczycie niż Wam się wydaje. A od kiedy? Od kilkunastu lat. Od bardzo. A teraz mam możliwość po prostu dzielić się tą swoją pasją. Na ile mogę oczywiście.
We've also armed the launch escape system, and obviously the crew is strapped in the Dragon capsule and they're ready to go. Final instructions of the crew will come in about a minute and a half at T-10. We'll listen to that. The crew displays will be configured for launch.
Koncert życzeń się pojawia, ale dobra, no nie ma problemu. Ami Wiki, pozdrawiam. Pozdrowienia od Nocnego Nieba.
T-5 minutes will be in the terminal count for Dragon. Dragon will transition to internal power.
11 minut do startu.
And off of the external ground power. We're going to hear continued callouts on the countdown net as we go from T-10 to 0, and then as we fly after T0 and liftoff, we'll hear callouts as we head into space. And that'll be letting the crew know as they reach each of the milestones. Now, next big event coming up at T-10 minutes is we're going to do launch commit criteria, and final instructions will be going to the crew. One other thing that you will hear is during ascent, you may hear 1 alpha, 1 bravo, 2 alpha. These are launch escape states. As the Falcon 9 flies, if a launch escape was required, the crew on board knows where they are passing various points in the countdown, and that would tell Dragon what sequence of events to execute to come off of the Falcon 9 and bring the crew back safely down under the parachutes in the ocean. Right now, T-10 minutes. Let's listen in to the countdown now.
Dragon, SpaceX, confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Endeavour, we confirm they're configured.
Copy MLA. And on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, we're honored to have you aboard Endeavour for its third flight to the International Space Station. Axiom-1 marks a new step in commercial spaceflight and research. We wish you a great mission, good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.
Thanks for those words, Arthur. I've got a few of my own. I'm going to let my crewmate Eitan say it first, though.
שלום. כמה ימים לפני שאנחנו מציינים את המסע הגדול שלנו לחירות. And a few minutes before launching on this journey, I wish to share with you the words of the Greek poet Constantine Cavafy that well describe the perspective of our marvelous crew. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you are destined for, but do not hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years. So you are old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you have gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you this marvelous journey. בהצלחה Ax-1, בהצלחה רקיע.
Thank you, Eitan. I'm going to continue far less elegant.
Dobra, nie ma sprawy za te pozdrowienia. Mam tak samo odnośnie zainteresowania. Fajne, ciekawe zainteresowania. Czy masz jakiś ulubiony typ samolotu? Wiesz co, niekoniecznie. Bardziej polujemy na malowania, bo obserwując niebo, no to poza tym okresem teraz, ostatnich kilku tygodni, oczywiście mamy mnóstwo różnych samolotów takich wojskowych, militarnych, które się pojawiają na niebie. To są takie perełki, ciekawostki, ale jak mamy taki nudny okres, gdzie latają tylko pasażerskie albo cargo, jeżeli mówimy akurat o przelotówkach, no to raczej polujemy na takie, które mają fajne malowanie, rzadko spotykane. Może jakiś samolot akurat przeleci. No ja akurat z Poznania nadaję, więc to musi gdzieś nad okolicami Poznania przelecieć. I to już nieważne, czy to jest Airbus A380, czy to jest inna maszyna. To bardziej chodzi o to, czy to jest jakieś malowanie po prostu, które rzadko się pojawia. Jakaś linia lotnicza, która bardzo rzadko pojawia się w danym rejonie i to jest jakieś wyzwanie, żeby właśnie takie upolować. Na przykład jak to nocne polowanie na Air Force One, które się udało jakiś tydzień temu, trochę dalej. Nie pamiętam, kiedy był prezydent Stanów Zjednoczonych w Polsce. W zeszłym tygodniu czy 2 tygodnie temu, jakoś tak, udało się wieczorem na bardzo ciemnym niebie w gwiazdach pojawił się Air Force One. No to po prostu niesamowicie wyglądało. Co ciekawe, w trakcie live'a, którego dla Was prowadziliśmy.
Super chilled liquid oxygen through the turbo pumps on those M1D engines. There's 9 of them at the base of the first stage.
Kiedy następny live? Jutro. Kto nie słyszał, to powtórzę, że jutro chciałbym zrobić live'a podsumowującego okres, w którym udało nam się zdobyć 10 000 subskrypcji. Okres, który tak naprawdę funkcjonowaliśmy dzięki Wam, bo to Wasze subskrypcje, to, że oglądających z dnia na dzień przybywało, no to udawało się przede wszystkim dzięki Wam i dla Was jutro chciałbym przygotować live z pewną niespodzianką. Nie powiem, co to jest, żeby to była oczywiście niespodzianka, natomiast nie będzie to składanie klocków, tak jak często niektórzy robią na live, bądź jakieś inne składanki. To jest coś, co Was też mocno zaangażuje. Także z góry zapraszam, kto jutro będzie miał czas w okolicach 20, 21, może nawet 22, bo to myślę, że trochę potrwa. Tak jeszcze tymi godzinami trochę żongluję, bo no nie wiem, jak mi dzieciaki zasną. Niestety muszę mocno uzależniać swoje live'y od tego, czy one już na pewno śpią, czy nie będę musiał tam małżonce trochę pomóc, ale okolice tych godzin 20 to będzie ok. Co dymi? Tlen się pewnie ulatnia. Jakieś składniki, to inaczej, to też kwestia zmiany temperatur. Przecież mamy bardzo schłodzone bardzo zimne paliwo wewnątrz rakiety. To nie jest dym, to jest para. 4 minuty do startu. Słuchajcie, co tam pijecie w rękę, chipsy zagryzać i trzymamy kciuki, żeby tam się nic złego nie stało.
About T-4 minutes, the clamp arms that you can see there will open, and then we will see the retract from there. So we've heard the call out. That's the start of the sequence. Doesn't mean that the clamp arms are late opening. Will take us a few more seconds.
As you can hear, the excitement in the crowd is really growing here at SpaceX headquarters at Hawthorne, California. There you can see the clamp arms have begun to...
Dziękuję Beata za promocję. Marek M. bardzo dziękuję za subskrypcję. No i właśnie w tym temacie chciałem tylko zachęcić wszystkich oczywiście do subskrybowania kanału Nocne Niebo. Te live'y są różne. Teraz widzicie live'a akurat z retransmisją tego, co się dzieje na Florydzie. Robimy live'y z tego, co dzieje się na nocnym niebie. Kto jest na kanale, kto bywa, ten wie, że wystawiamy jeden aparat, czasami dwa. Obserwujemy sobie nocne niebo nad Poznaniem, polujemy na Starlinki, polujemy na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną, polujemy na inne, już bardziej naturalne zdarzenia, które występują na niebie. Czasem ja się pojawiam, jeżeli akurat nie korzystam z podłączenia teraz akurat innego sprzętu do laptopa i mam kamerę wolną, no to wtedy też się pojawiam. To nie jest tak, że prowadzący jest jakiś anonimowy. Czasami moją facjatę na tych filmikach też znajdziecie. A myślę, że jutro zrobimy właśnie taki live niespodzianka i to będzie miłe zaskoczenie dla nas. Ile pan ma lat, jeżeli można zapytać? O kurczę, bardzo bezpośrednie pytanie. Lat mam już 40. Sporo, nie? Na szczęście obserwujących ten kanał i osób, które są w tej chwili na transmisji jest jeszcze więcej, więc to mnie najbardziej w tej chwili cieszy. 2 minuty 15 do startu. Powoli się wyciszamy.
All right, at this point in time, that LOX load on first stage is complete. So the first stage is now fully loaded with all of its propellant. LOX load on second stage continues. As we've mentioned before,
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
All right, so there's that call. At this point in time, Falcon 9
Dragon is in auto idle.
Dragon is fully loaded with all of its propellants, nearly 1 million pounds of that propellant.
Next event coming up
started.
Right now, the gas closeouts. We finished pressurizing the storage tanks on board the Falcon 9. They gave the crew the heads up.
Minuta 20, trzymamy kciuki. Moi drodzy, jednak to jest załogowa misja, tutaj ryzyko jest większe. Trzymamy kciuki, żeby nic się nie wydarzyło.
Generates a typical large white cloud of condensation around the strong back. Big event coming up now, T-1 minute, all the flight computers take over. Let's listen in to the last minute of terminal count.
FTS is armed, Falcon 9 is in startup, and now controlling.
Dragon is in countdown.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
Chris, pozdrawiam Ciebie i rodzinkę z Landshut. Nie wiem, czy dobrze przeczytałem, ale wybacz mi jak źle. Dobra, koniec pozdrowień, koniec gadania. Oglądamy start. 30 sekund do startu. Oby nic tam się nie wydarzyło.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Stop. Go Falcon, go Dragon. Godspeed, Axiom 1.
chapter begins. Godspeed, Ax-1.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
T plus 38 seconds into this historic mission, flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9.
Power into telemetry nominal. Stage 1 throttle down.
Throttling down in the preparation for max dynamic pressure.
Falcon 9 is supersonic. XQ. Stage 1 throttle up.
Merlin 1D engines coming back up to power.
1 Bravo. Copy, 1 Bravo.
The crew calling out 1 Bravo should a escape situation arise. It tells the Dragon flight computer what profile to fly using the Super Draco engines. But everything is looking good on Falcon 9. We're getting nominal callouts from all the engineers and a great view from the ground camera and the onboard cameras.
Invac chill underway.
Beginning to chill in the second stage turbo pump in preparation for its ignition coming up in just over half a minute from now. Coming up on about 3.5 G's acceleration for the crew. We'll begin throttling down the Merlin engines to hold that level of acceleration. Next event coming up, we're going to get main engine cutoff of the 9 engines. Get stage separation and ignition of the second stage engine. You've heard the throttle down call out. We're holding 3.5 G's for the crew.
And Miko. Stage separation state. Copy 2 Alpha. Invac ignition.
Successful stage separation ignition of the second stage engine. On the left, the titanium grid fins beginning to slowly deploy. Great views from the first stage camera. The first stage now begins a slow flip maneuver. You can see the white nitrogen gas plumes. To apogee, and then it'll come back down for...
Słuchajcie, miałem na chwilę zanik internetu, był drobny problem, ale już jest ok. Nie wiem, co się dokładnie wydarzyło, ale straciłem tutaj połączenie, wygasiły mi się ekrany, nie wiem, jakiś kurczę krótkotrwały zanik prądu czy coś. Na szczęście leci to z laptopa, więc bateria utrzymała komputer. Sorka, ale już chyba powinno wszystko wrócić do normy.
Looks like
To u mnie był problem, nie u nich.
as John had said earlier, we got to
SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Dobra, ale to jest dobry moment, żeby podsumować to, co się dzieje. W kierunku Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej leci teraz 4 astronautów. Chyba można ich tak nazwać, czy nie? Bo tam było tak, że jeżeli ktoś przekroczy tą granicę 100 km, to już jest astronautą, ale nie wiem, czy się wycofali z tego. W każdym razie 4 mężczyzn akurat leci nam na Międzynarodową Stację Kosmiczną. Spędzą tam 8 dni.
Second stage.
Ktoś zapytał, po co tam lecą. No właśnie, tak mówimy, że to są kosmiczni turyści, bo tak w pewnej mierze jest, ale firma Axiom Space, która ich wysyła, ma w planach zbudować takie moduły rozrywkowe do Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej, takie moduły, w których w tym stanie mikrograwitacji będzie można na przykład kręcić filmy, będzie można prowadzić jakieś rozgrywki sportowe, taką arenę do zabawy, taki szeroko rozumiany entertainment ma się tam dziać. I ta misja jest w pewnym sensie przetarciem szlaków. Tak? Ten Axiom Space, który właśnie wysyła tych turystów, ma stworzyć tą stację o nazwie Axiom Station, przepraszam. Na początku to mają być moduły do Międzynarodowej Stacji Kosmicznej, ale jak wiecie, Międzynarodowa Stacja Kosmiczna ma jakiś ograniczony czas swojego użytkowania w 2030 tam